Um, the first, you know how it is when you first start talking and you don't clear your throat properly. So I just sounded like a complete idiot just now. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Good to see you, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I want to say welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I see a lot of you are in here already. Miss Bird and RPC. I see you and Rosa from Modesto, California. Shout out the city you're from. Also, if you have a business, shout out the name of your business. Constance says glory to glory. Well, glory to you as well. Good to see everybody. All right, so today what I'm going to talk to you all about is a study that shows, surprisingly to some of you, that couples who actually merge their finances show a lot more satisfaction in their relationships. And I'm not only going to tell you what the results are, but exactly why this happens. And then also, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you some stocks that I'm investing in that I just bought right now that look like they're going to be pretty good investments. And so do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe right now. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because this is the Black Love and Relationship channel that I actually have with my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. In case you don't know, my wife is, to me, she is as beautiful as the day is long, and she is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And she works with me to basically help to heal the community when it comes to the way we look at money and our relationships and everything else. She has helped us to establish in the Black Business School the first ever Black financial therapy department. How cool is that? There is no Black financial therapy department anywhere on the planet. We started the first one because we realized that it is undiagnosed, untreated trauma that causes not only our relationship problems, but also our financial problems. And so anyway, if you could make sure you hit that button and make sure you subscribe. And also her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. That's where she actually sees clients on an individual and collective basis. So feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com. Okay, guys, so let me hop into the crux of this study. It was really, really interesting. And basically what they found is that there were that couples that split their financial responsibility, that merge their finances together, are happier than couples that don't do that. And I think this is really interesting considering all the debates online. Let me know if you've seen them, all the debates about 50-50 this and 50-50 that, and who should have responsibility for the finances and stuff like that. Well, the studies pretty much show that when couples merge their money together and they work together as a team, they're not only better off financially, but they're actually happier. In fact, basically, or one of the major reasons that they're happier is that something about merging your money together increases your trust and commitment. It says here that merging finances can signify trust and commitment between partners. It often requires open communication about income, debts, spending habits, etc., which can strengthen the relationship. Surprise, surprise. How many of y'all are not surprised at all that trust, commitment, and communication are not important in relationships? How many of you kind of expected that? Let me know. Give me a yes if you kind of expected that trust, commitment, and communication might play a part in a healthy relationship. Well, this is not a surprise. I will put this in the no duh category. And apparently, when you're merging your finances, you both have skin in the game. You're both being transparent with each other, and that apparently seems to go a long way. Now, there actually wrote a book about love and money years ago called Financial Lovemaking, and you guys can have it for free. If you want a hard copy, it's available at drboycebooks.com. But if you want the free copy, just go to boyceandalicia.com, and you can get a free e-copy of this book. And one of the things that I talk about in this book, and I wrote this when I was on the faculty of Syracuse University, and one of the things that I cover in this book is the concept of getting financially naked with your partner. I talk about the fact that there are so many people that get financial STDs from their partners, and these are STDs you can't get rid of. These are STDs that have flare-ups for the rest of your life, and in many cases, it's because we did not take the time to really try to understand what we were getting into. A lot of times, think about this. Think about how many times people will sleep together, have kids together, even get married, and don't even know each other's credit score. Don't even know each other's credit score. Now, I'm not shaming you if you're in this category. I would say just join the club because a lot of people make that mistake. A lot of people make that mistake. A lot of people don't know. They don't even know how much their partner owes in student loans. They don't know. Some people don't even know how much their partner makes for a living. They don't know how much money they've saved. They don't know if they own any assets. They don't know if they have any pending lawsuits. They don't know what their financial future looks like. And I don't know about y'all, but I kind of really think that just from a financial consciousness standpoint, we should probably take a moment and ask ourselves, is that a good idea? Yes or no? What do y'all think? Do you think that's a good idea to to tether your life to a person, to financially tether yourself to someone when you have no clue what they're into, how they're making their money, if they're making enough money, or what their financial future looks like? What do y'all think? Do you think that's smart or not so smart? I would say that it's not so smart. And Jody Ann, that's a great point. She says a lot of men don't want to share this information. Oh, I'm gonna say, I hate to say it, but it almost sounds like that might not be the man for you. I know that. See, back in the day, there used to be. You know what? Check this out. So one day, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was scrolling through Instagram like a lot of us do, and I saw this beautiful, beautiful black woman that was singing a song and she was singing in like the 1940s. And I don't know the song. Some of y'all may know the song. I didn't know the lady. I didn't know the song. But the first words of the song were like, "Look at me, look at me." And she said something like, "I'm as happy as a bird in a tree," or something like that. Tell me who that is. Tell me who that singer is, because I know she's famous. I just didn't know who she was. Please help me fill the gap in my ignorance on this. Anyway, I was so intrigued with this beautiful black woman singing this amazing song in the 1940s that I looked her up. I don't remember her name, but I looked her up. And so I went on this little 3 a.m. internet quest to find out about this woman and find out who is this lady. She sings beautifully and she's such a pretty lady, and it's the 1940s. I wonder what her life was like. I wonder what her journey was like. So you know what I did? I do this a lot. I went and I read her whole Wikipedia page. I read about her whole life from the time she was born, what her parents were like, how she got discovered. She got discovered in the Apollo, like a lot of great singers do. And she eventually became super famous because, eventually white people discovered her and she got a record deal. And she had all these marriages. She got married about 2 or 3 times. And I noticed that she lost all her money. Sarah Vaughan, thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, it looked to me, again, I'm not an expert on the life of Sarah Vaughan, but I remember seeing a lot of financial tragedy in her life because the men she trusted to manage her money had problems. I think one of them had a gambling issue, so she'd go make all this money as a singer, and he would go gamble it away. Another one was her manager, and he did something crazy with the money. I don't know if it involved drugs or something else. And I just thought about how sad it must have been for this poor lady who grew up in a space where, if you are a woman making money, you just hand everything over to the man. And some of these men are just not, unfortunately, were just not worthy of leadership. They were just not in a position where they could be trusted as stewards of the family resources. And as a result of that, they ruined her. They ruined this poor lady financially multiple times. She would lose her fortune, regain it, then marry somebody else, then lose it all again. So that challenge she had with picking the right kind of man really messed her up financially. I don't know how much money she had when she died, but I remember it was very, very sad to read her story, right? So here's the thing. I don't want your story to be sad, and I don't know where you are in your life. Maybe you're already married, maybe you're not, maybe you're going to get married one day or whatever it is. But I would encourage you to add your financial health to part of as part of your assessment of whether or not a person even belongs in your life. Okay, can we at least agree that this makes sense? Give me a yes if this makes sense. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I see. All right. So if you allow me to, I wanted to thank some of the people that are helping us kind of pay the bills on the channel. And there's an awesome lady named Aisha Verzi, who is an extraordinary financial planner. She's a long-term supporter of the Black Business School, and I love her. She was at our Stock Options Summit in Los Angeles recently. And basically it says if you're looking for a great financial advisor, Aisha is with Ethos. She's offering up to $2 million in term insurance with a staggering 95% approval rate, instant approval rate. Plus, you'll receive a free living trust and will, ensuring your financial security and peace of mind. Approval is quick and easy, taking just minutes. Don't miss out. You can connect with her by calling 626-340-5746. That's 626-340-5746. Now, this is not investing advice. I cannot vouch for everything. You have to do your own due diligence on this, but I like Aisha a lot, and I encourage you to give her a call, especially if you're working to put together your financial plan and prepare for your future. So I'm going to leave that number on the screen so you can reach out to Aisha if you'd like to talk. She's just a cool lady, and she'll talk to you about your finances. All right, so here is so the next The next reason that merging your finances with someone else tends to lead to a happier relationship is they also say that it simplifies the money management process. They said that managing finances together can simplify budgeting and financial planning. It can make it easier for couples to set and achieve common goals, such as saving for a home or planning for retirement. So, effectively, what they're arguing here in this study is that when you are financially connected to someone, a good partner, someone that is trustworthy, someone who is solid, that it actually simplifies the planning process, which does make sense. You know, my wife and I, we kind of do the his, hers, and ours thing. We don't do we definitely don't do 50-50. We're not that petty with each other. We just kind of we kind of get in where we fit in. I know that I make the most money, so I cover most of the expenses. But then my wife is she's that smart, strong, educated black woman that we all read about in the newspaper, and she's capable. She's very capable, and I am not old fashioned with that. I completely love it, respect it, and I admire it. So my wife steps in sometimes, and we go on a trip, and she says, "Hey, babe, I paid for the hotel. I got the Airbnb. Can you get the rental car?" Right? It'll be something like that, just teamwork, right? So ultimately, what they're saying is that if you have some sort of merger, like if you have a joint account that both of you have access to and have money in and are putting a stake in, maybe perhaps something that's proportionate to your income levels or whatever the case may be, that can simplify your money management process. So maybe having all your bills sort of come out of that one account might go a long way in terms of how you process your finances. Now, what I want to do really quick is you hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe, and also remind you that this podcast is on Spotify. Is I want to give you the first stock. I told you I would give you two stocks today that I just bought. One of them is AMD. AMD, that's the ticker symbol AMD. They're right there with NVIDIA competing in this whole AI race, making these amazing chips. And my research says that AMD is a stock that has tremendous potential for the future. Now, again, this is not investing advice and nothing is guaranteed when it comes to investing, but most of my research says AMD has a bright future ahead of it. And so if you want to go take a look at AMD, feel free to do that. If you want to see what Dr. Boyce is buying, I make a list every week for the students. Feel free to go to drboycestocks.com. That's drboycestocks.com. And there's a bunch of them in there, and you can make some investments, and feel free to follow along. It's totally up to you. All right. So the third reason that merging finances can make a relationship better, according to these studies, is that it can reduce your financial stress. They said that when couples combine their resources, they may feel less individual financial pressure. Sharing financial responsibilities can distribute the burden and potentially reduce stress related to money. How about that? How about that? Isn't that a surprise? Isn't that shocking? I mean, really, let's think about how this, I never would have guessed. Who would have guessed that life is easier when you have somebody helping you out? Who would have guessed that the sport of economics is easier when it's played with a team as opposed to playing by yourself? Who would have guessed that the heavy burden of surviving in this crazy economy where inflation is through the roof and wages are not going up and corporations are not loyal and student loans are going crazy? Who would have guessed that in this difficult world that it would be easier if you had some help? Oh my God. Wow. I'm so shocked by this, that people who have help have less financial stress than people who don't. It didn't, I don't have to have a PhD to tell you this. I don't need to be a professor to break this down for you. I don't need to even have a bachelor's degree to explain to you that 2 plus 2 is 4 and that 2 plus 0 is 2. And then 2 minus 4 is -2. Some of y'all ain't even, not only are you not getting the plus 2, you're getting a -4. You're not only not aligning with somebody who can move you forward, you're aligning with people who can move you backward. I don't know what it is. Maybe she's cute, or maybe his sex is good, or maybe he's really romantic, or maybe she just makes you feel good. She smiles and you just melt with that smile, and you're willing to pay her bills for the rest of your life. I'm not judging that. I think that's fine. But I just want you to understand that 2 plus 2 is still always going to be 4. The math is always going to keep mathing, even when you fall in love. And so ultimately what they're saying here is that financial anxiety, which is a huge problem for a lot of people, When they do surveys, they find that millions of people are experiencing extreme amounts of financial anxiety. They said people who have a teammate have less financial anxiety than people who don't. And so if you're able to make that decision, and it doesn't have to just be romantic. I'm just even when you talk about the company you keep, the circles you roll in, whatever it is, having good teammates makes a massive difference when it comes to your financial outcomes. All right, let's keep going here. And by the way, my wife, again, my wife who's a therapist, she actually did a whole workbook on financial stress and anxiety where you can kind of work through all that stuff like that. She has a lot of really good books. If you go to drboycebooks.com, to make it easy for you, I put my wife's stuff right there on my website. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com, and we have a whole love and money section on Dr. Boyce Books. It's a one-stop shop for Black wealth mastery. And we designed it specifically for Black people. We didn't design it for anybody else. You ain't got to be Black to come in there, but you're going to see a whole lot of Black stuff if you get there. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com to take a look. All right, number 4. They said that alignment of financial goals. They said merging finances often encourages couples to discuss and align their financial goals. This alignment can reduce conflicts over money and ensure that both partners work toward the same objectives. So what they're saying here is that when you merge finances, it encourages you to discuss communication, there's that word again, and align your financial goals. That means that we are in the same car. I'm not trying to drive north while you're driving south. I'm not trying to go east while you're going west. We're both going the same direction. And also, we have the same objectives. I think that's really important because if you have the same objective, then you can conquer the objective as a team. If I'm trying to do one thing and you're trying to do another thing, then we're doing two things. So perhaps when you're having these conversations before you align yourself with another human being, it might be important to understand not just what they're capable of achieving, but what their priorities are, how they view money, what they're doing with the money that they have. A lot of times I've seen men try to impress women by spending lots of money, and that's not impressive. If you're spending lots of money, that shouldn't impress anybody. That actually should show them that you're a financial fool. If you're spending lots of money to impress people, or if you are a person, so the fool is not just the person spending all the money. The fool is also the person who's impressed by the fact that you're spending all the money. There's nothing impressive about giving away all the resources. That's not impressive to me. And so really, I would encourage you to really think about not just what you're looking for, but also what priorities, what value systems that other party may have, and make sure that that's in alignment with the things that you understand and that you agree with. I sat with a couple when I wrote my book, Financial Lovemaking. I sat with a couple in the Bronx, and the wife was a bus driver in the New York City transit system. She'd been doing that for 30 years. The husband also was a worker for the city, and he was actually in hip hop in the early days. He in the 1970s and 80s, he was friends with people like DJ Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, KRS-One. I mean, he was right there in the epicenter of the beginning of hip hop. Like when they did those hip hop history books, they would put his flyers in the books because he would have these parties, these rap parties and DJ parties that people would come to. And he always had a regret, and his biggest regret was that he never ever pursued his interest in becoming a hip hop artist or become a businessman in that whole hip hop party space. He feels like he kind of missed out when Russell Simmons and all those guys kind of took off and did great things. He felt like he should have been a part of that. Well, anyway, he chose love over career, and he married his beautiful wife, and they had beautiful children. But he always had this regret that he never participated in the early stages of hip hop. So what he did, here's what happened. This was really crazy. So the couple had this credit card that was maxed out to like $10,000 or $12,000. And when the wife and the husband had worked together really hard to pay down this credit card. It took them a couple of years to pay it down to zero. Well, the husband, without asking the wife's permission, without even talking to his wife, takes the credit card and maxes out the credit card to basically host some kind of a party, some sort of a hip hop party that he thought was going to make a whole bunch of money. Well, unfortunately, the party didn't make any money, and they lost all this money. So I'm sitting there with this couple as they're trying to decide what to do. I mean, there's lots of tears, and she's devastated, and she's thinking about divorce and everything else. And I remember feeling very sad for everyone. I felt very sad for the wife, obviously, because she had worked so hard to help pay down this credit card, and to have her husband go behind her back and max out the card again But then I felt very bad for the husband too, because he was this man that was sort of living with these broken dreams that he sacrificed in order to become a husband and a father. And so these little dynamics can pop up in relationships where maybe someone has this dream that they never got a chance to pursue, or a dream that they're willing to sacrifice everything for, and the other party isn't interested, and it just becomes torture for everybody. It really becomes torture for everybody. I remember when I was trying to become an entrepreneur, and I remember how I used to have to spend every penny I had to get my dream off the ground. If I made $8,000 that month, I might spend $7,895 to pursue whatever I was trying to pursue. And I don't really know how my wife would have felt about that. And so if I'd gotten married at that time, I would have probably needed to choose a wife who, number one, had a big risk tolerance, right? Someone who was able to really go in the fire with me and not get scared. A lot of people can't handle that. A lot of people can't stand the rain. There are sunny days, everybody loves them, but tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? A lot of people don't want to hear that their husband spent 99% of the family's income pursuing some sort of a pipe dream. And then number two, maybe someone who had something to complement what I was doing. So maybe somebody who already had some resources and was well established and simply said, hey, babe, you do your thing. I'll support you. I'll have your back. I'm going to reduce your risk by being a backup in case things go wrong, right? So ultimately, it's not a matter of saying that there's a clear right or wrong in terms of how you should make these connections. It's really a matter of saying, did I even think about it? Was I conscious of this? Did I process all these things, or did I just sort of dive into situations and not really think about it? I hope that makes sense. I hope that you guys are getting that, because I don't want to tell anybody what to do. The only thing I'm telling you to do is think about it. All I'm telling you to do is be financially conscious. And in case you don't know, we actually do financial consciousness training. It's a free class in the Black Business School, free to the public. You can join us every morning. If you text the word morning to the number 87948, text morning to 87948, and I will invite you to our Money in the Morning financial consciousness training. And you guys are going to love it. And then also, again, if you will allow me, I want to thank another sponsor that's helping us pay the bills on this podcast. And this company is Root Force Publications. And basically, the African, it's an African-American writers platform. Let's see, Raheem Cox. He's a mental health genius, according to what I'm seeing here. His website is rootforcepublications.com. He has a lot of creative offerings. You can check out his podcast, Cold Sauce, for groundbreaking mental health discussions, and Hot Feed for the top 10 news briefings, perfect for when you're on the move. Plus, Raheem offers unique consignment opportunities for his books and DVDs, ideal for students and vendors starting out. Don't miss the chance to support and learn more at Root Force Publications. So that's rootforcepublications.com. So if you could take a second and just go peek out that Black-owned business. I don't know a ton about these companies in terms of exactly what they do, but I do know they're supporting the Black Business School. So I hope you'll go take a look and let me know what you think about their platform. So rootforcepublications.com. All right. So here's another couple of reasons why. I'm gonna give you a couple more reasons why merging finances tends to lead to happier couples. And then I'm going to give you that second stock that I mentioned. The stock I mentioned earlier was AMD. Somebody type AMD in the chat. That's the stock that I mentioned that I actually just bought. And so I believe the stock is going to do well in the next 3 to 5 years. These are long-term investments, but this is not investing advice. Number 5 is increased relationship equality. They said joint finances can foster a sense of equality in relationships. It can help balance any power dynamics that might exist when one partner earns more money than the other. Now, that's an interesting thing because financial abuse is very, very real. There are people who will make more money than you and hold it over your head and make you feel like crap. There are people who will use the money that they have to literally beat you upside the head, make you feel terrible every chance they get. There are women who might make more money than the man and completely humiliate, dehumanize, emasculate that man every day of the week. There are men who make more money than women who will literally say, if you leave me, there's nowhere you can go. And that's why you got to stay, because I have all the money. Now, if you love your son and you love your daughter, you will not subject them to any of this nonsense. I believe strongly that young girls need to be taught about money, because I think all young girls should have options. I also think that young Black men should have options, and older Black men. I just think Black men are happier when we have options, and we're depressed when we don't. And so ultimately, when you talk about things like financial abuse in relationships, a lot of times it typically starts with one person having a whole lot more money than the other. It's one person thinking that I'm bringing more to the table than you. What are you bringing to the table? You ain't bringing nothing to the table. And those are weird other conversations, right? I would say also remember that there are things you can bring to the table other than just money, of course, right? If someone's giving birth to your kids, that's quite a bit to bring to the table. Money cannot buy the birth of your child. Money cannot buy human life. Money cannot buy that those little humans that came out of her body. So I kind of believe that that's sacred. But maybe people think I'm old fashioned, or they think I'm simping when I say that. But I don't care. Just call me simp of the year, because you know what? I honor any woman that's willing to go through the torture of having my baby. Shoot, I mean, think about it. Imagine if men had to have all the kids. If men had the kids, there would be no children. The human population would cease to exist if we had to go through the torture of even having one child in our lifetime. So thank you to the mothers who give us life, and I believe that you are sacred, and I believe that the world should respect you. And I've been pissed off to no end that we allowed somebody to bastardize hip hop music and train so many young black men to disrespect black women on a regular basis. I think that's dastardly and embarrassing, and it's not a reflection of who we are. But I digress from that. With that being said, one of the things that they do say is that when both partners are able to participate in economic decision making, there is a sense of strength that each person gets to feel, a sense of equality. Everyone gets to feel like they're contributing. Nobody gets to hold anything over anybody's head. This is important. This is important. This is important. I knew a rich white boy when I was a kid, and his mama tried to kill herself. And I was like, why'd your mama try to kill herself? And you know how white people, anybody ever have white friends and you go to their house and their parents will talk to you like you're an adult? Has anybody ever had like they would talk to you about stuff that black parents don't talk about in front of the kids? Anybody ever had that experience? Like I learned so much from my white friends. Like I would go to their house and their parents would, like, their mom would be talking about the divorce, like he cheated and blah blah blah, like stuff that I didn't expect to hear as a 13-year-old. I don't know if anybody else ever had that experience, but if you really want to have an interesting experience as a kid, get some like white friends and go to their house. It was just different. It was different. So anyway, so I went to my friend's house, and she and his mother had basically tried to kill herself, literally. And I was like, what happened? And the mom basically told me everything that happened. She was divorced. She said, my husband, when I was in college, he was going to be a dentist and make all this money. So I quit school because he was going to make all the money. And so that's what happened. She quit school. He becomes a dentist. They're living this wonderful life, right? Everything's happily ever after so far until she hits about 40. And so she's not in the workforce. She's living this nice suburban housewife life. And they've got, expensive cars and boats and everything else. And then he decides he wants to trade in his 40 for 220s. And so he basically starts having this affair with his secretary, who is half the age of his wife. And his wife can't leave because she has no money and no marketable skills. She can't go back into the workforce. How often have you seen that? How often have you seen that? So she was completely financially dependent on this man, and so he leaves. He takes off with his 24-year-old, and the wife is there with the two kids, sitting up in some expensive private school where the tuition's like $15,000-$20,000 a year, and she can't afford that. She can't afford to maintain the lifestyle that she had become accustomed to, because this dude decided that he wasn't going to keep his commitment to his family. And as a result, she ends up trying to take her own life. And I never forgot that story. I never forgot that. And I remember thinking, gosh, I think this is why women need to have their own money. And I came to this conclusion when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And I'm not saying that, you should go through life saying, I don't need no man. I don't think that that's healthy either. But at the same time, some of these guys are bastards. And some of these women are bastards. Let's just be honest. You got bastards there. Don't marry a bastard. Right? How about that? How about that for a pack? Let's just not date the bastards. And the nice people, we always end up with the bastards, don't we? We always, the nicer you are, the more of a magnet you become to all the horrible, crappy people in the world. So you got to be really careful. But anyway, with that said, though, I think that this really speaks to the reality of everybody kind of having their own financial plan, showing up as whole as you can to a relationship, having some sort of financial backup. And it also speaks to, even though there's a relatively immature conversation I've seen in some circles about marriage sort of being used as a way to get access to a man's money, I think that there is a reason to tie financial security to a relationship to make it a little more difficult for somebody to just drop everything and walk out on you. right? So you lay down with somebody, you have a bunch of kids with that person, and then one day they just decide that they're bored and they want to go do something more fun. Well, what contracts and marriage forces them to do is it forces them to have to go through some extra steps in order to make that happen. And some of those steps have a financial cost tied to them, which does create a little bit of security. If you don't have that security, then really bad things can happen. I told you all that story about the guy who was in his 50s and he started dating this little 32-year-old thing, and a little young girl about the same age as his daughter. And the little 32-year-old thing fell in love with this older man. And I think older guys, we got our own little swag. We got a little bit of extra money, and we're smart. We got some wisdom, and so sometimes young girls, that young girls like that. And so anyway, he starts dating this young girl, and I think he really loved her, but his daughter hated her. His daughter couldn't stand this girl because they were about the same age. And so one day, even despite the fact that he believed age wasn't nothing but a number, the universe sometimes has a way of correcting you and reminding you that you really are 54 years old. You thought you in your head you might have thought you were 24, but no, you're really 54. So we about to give you a stroke. We about to so that's what happened. We about to give you some high blood pressure and a stroke, which takes out a lot of black men in their 50s, right? So he has a stroke because of his high blood pressure, and he goes into a coma. And so during the time that he's in this coma, this poor 32-year-old girl is trying to figure out, how am I going to pay the bills now that this man who is my sole provider, who told me that marriage ain't nothing but a piece of paper, age ain't nothing but a number. Now all these things are starting to matter. Now age is more than a number, and marriage is more than a piece of paper, because she has no legal rights whatsoever, none, not nada. So what she does is she then goes and basically breaks into his phone so she can get access to his bank account. She takes the phone. This is a true story, by the way. This is a real. I told you all this story during financial consciousness training, but so forgive me if you've heard this before. I just think the story was very powerful and it's very real. It happened like 6 months ago, like, to a friend of mine. This is not something I read about. This is something I know about. So she puts the phone to his face, breaks into his bank account, right? So and gets the money out. Now, technically, you could say she wasn't doing anything wrong, kind of, because, or at least in her mind, maybe she felt like, well, he would be paying, if he was conscious, he'd be paying the bills. I'm just doing what he would do if he were conscious. Well, unfortunately, the law doesn't see things that way. So a few weeks later, he dies. He dies from his stroke after being in this coma. And then once he dies, everything, all bets are off. All connections and agreements you made, every promise that was made, every commitment he made to you is completely irrelevant, non-existent. In the court of law, it's as if it doesn't happen. As if it never happened. It's as if you are a complete stranger in his life and you have no connection to him whatsoever, because now the law is stepping in and looking at what's real versus what's not real. Your loyalty to this man was very real to you, but it wasn't real to the state. The state didn't give a damn how much of a ride or die you were, how many times you cooked his food, how much you loved this man, what you did for him. They didn't care. So they said, ma'am, I'm sorry. According to the state in the law, because he had no estate plan, because sometimes for some reason people die thinking they die with, they leave nothing, thinking that they're never going to die. And because he had no estate plan, they said everything he has goes to his daughter. Dun dun dun. The daughter gets everything? You mean the daughter that hates my guts? You mean the daughter who's dying to evict me from my house because that's her daddy's house, which is now her house? You mean the daughter who's going to do an investigation into the bank account and find out who took $40,000 out of her daddy's bank account while he was in a coma? You mean the daughter who can't stand my ass, who would lock me up under the jail if she could? Yeah, that daughter. That's who's going to get everything. She's got all the power now. So this man who supposedly loved you left you assed out. You have no rights. If he were alive, he would be defending you. He'd say, "No, don't do that. I love this woman." But no, because he told you that marriage wasn't nothing but a piece of paper, age ain't nothing but a number, and I'm gonna be here forever to take care of you, and you believe that. So as a result, the daughter goes in. She immediately evicts the girlfriend from her house and making her homeless. And then she calls the sheriff's office also and informs them that after they evict her, they need to arrest her because she stole money out of his account. The end. The end. That was her happily ever after. So this is real life, folks. I mean, this is life, man. Like, And I'm gonna tell you, I would encourage you to try to go through life as a grown up. Actually, my wife, she does these book clubs, and I think that literally the book that they're going through right now is something like um relationship having relationships as a grown-up, or doing relationships as a grown-up, or something like that. And really the thing is that there are some people who do their relationships like children, and some people who grow up and look at the world for what it is and make grown-up decisions. And I just really encourage you to really make that distinction. And so, because it does get to a point where it gets real. That's my 2 cents. I hope that story helps you. I don't want it to scare you, but I hope it gives you something to think about. Okay. So you don't have to agree with me. I just want to share that with you in case it helps somebody out there. All right. Now, if you will please allow me, please do me a quick favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, don't forget you are watching the Love and Money channel that I have with my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. She's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. She runs our Black Financial Therapy department in the Black Business School. And if you want to learn more about what she does, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. Or if you'd like a copy of my books or her books, you can go to drboycebooks.com. I also have financial flashcards and workbooks for children, things like that can help you, especially with summer coming. A lot of you have kids and you want to get your kids ahead. We have flashcard bundles and stuff like that. So just go to drboycebooks.com, and there's anything you want to do in terms of Black wealth, we got you. We are the Black wealth experts of the planet in the Black Business School. We'd love to help you out. All right, so let me do this last little point here, and then what I'm going to do is give you that second stock. Remember, the stock earlier was AMD, and I'll mention the second one in a second, but I want to mention the sixth reason why merging finances helps couples to have a more fulfilling relationship. And the sixth thing that they mention here is that when you merge your finances, you're better at handling financial emergencies. They said with combined finances, couples might be better prepared to handle unexpected financial challenges, providing a sense of security and support. And so one of the things that occurs when you have another person helping you financially is you have natural, something in finance we call diversification. And natural diversification basically means you don't have all your eggs in one basket. Diversification means that you have a plan B. Diversification means that it's not falling all on you. Now, so here's where you're in a risky situation. If you're, say, a single mom who has one stream of income and no savings and no assets, no investments, and no side hustles, you're kind of in a vulnerable situation, because if something happens to you, then everybody's in trouble. The whole house falls down, right? So maybe processing that and saying, gosh, I wonder what that looks like to provide some backups and some plan Bs. Right? So one good consciousness exercise you could try is to say, is to meditate and imagine if you died right now. Sit on the porch one day and just imagine, like, okay, I died right now. What would that look like? What would tomorrow look like? Would everybody be able to get what they needed? What would happen at the funeral? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay? Who's going to make sure these kids get fed? Who's going to make sure the mortgage gets paid? Who gets the house? Who gets the car? Who's going to, who's going to handle the estate? What is there an estate in place? Did I leave adequate instructions? And the crazy thing that sucks about death, that's just terrible, is that death doesn't give you a do-over, right? It doesn't let you, it's not like you get to the pearly gates and God says, hey, okay, well, you didn't quite finish up that paperwork, so I'm going to let you go back for a day so you can sign those documents and get it. You can't do that. Your chance is now. Your opportunity is now. And so I would encourage you to really understand the power of now, and just understand that also, when you have good teammates around you, it can help you deal with financial emergencies a little bit better. And in fact, it doesn't have to just be a romantic relationship. There are more and more families where people are just getting together, like-minded people are just getting together and say, let's hold each other down. Literally, there are groups of single moms that get together and say, let's all just buy a house together, and we're all going to be financially responsible. We're going to run this like a corporation, and we're all going to pool our money together and buy us a big, gigantic house and raise our kids together and live our lives together. That's doable. Like, that's a model. Or two people who are not even married, maybe two people that don't even want to date each other. I've seen that happen, right? So I think being creative in this economy is really essential to survival. I think also being creative can open a pathway to prosperity that may not have existed for people that live their lives inside a box. I don't think you want to live your life inside a box. I think you want to live your life free. I think you want to live your life with a broad perspective. And I think you want to live your life in a way where you solve the problem in whatever way you need to solve it. And I would encourage you, don't let nobody judge you or tell you how you're supposed to do it. You take in all the information, process the life that you want to live, and then figure out how to make that stuff work. The answers are out there, but don't follow everybody else, because a lot of these people out here are drowning. They drowning in bad relationships. They're drowning in bad financial situations. They're drowning in lots of stress. They're drowning because Mr. Charlie at the job got his foot on their neck. They're drowning because nobody prepared them for the future, and the future is now. They're drowning. Some of them are drowning and don't even know why they're drowning. They don't even have enough consciousness to know what's happening around them. They're watching shade room videos and in constant pain and stress and don't even know why. They don't even know what's happening. It's just happening. They just know something bad's happening, but they don't even know what it is. So be more conscious than that. I encourage you to really sit and think about that. Look at your life. Think about it. Figure out how to get where you want to be. Okay, that's all I got to say. I'm going to give you guys this stock. Okay, so the stock that I like, the other stock I just bought, again, this is not investing advice. Give me a yes if you understand that, because sometimes I share stuff and then people think that I'm telling the black community what to do. I ain't telling nobody what to do. I'm telling you what I'm about to do. It's just like I want you to go take care of your family. I'm just taking care of mine. So let me know if you understand. This is not investing advice. This is just me sharing some information that I found in my research. There's a company called Sonova, Nova. The ticker symbol is Nova. It looks to me like an asset that has tremendous potential over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, I invest in thousands of stocks, but Sonova Energy, it's only $4.81 a share. And I like the company. It looks like it has potential. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dollar cost average my way into Sonova and see what the universe brings me. But this, based on my research, this stock appears to have plenty of upside. There's going to be an energy crisis in the future because there is a massive energy demand that is occurring because of AI. Artificial intelligence is sucking up electricity and all kinds of power around the world. And I believe Sonova Energy is one of the companies that can possibly benefit from this energy situation, if you will. All right. And also, if you allow me to, as you hit the thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to this channel. This is the channel I have with my wife. This is our Love and Money channel. And also, if you'd like a free copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking, as a gift, just go to boyceandalicia.com. That's boyceandalicia.com. Or you can also text the word love to 87948. And if you text love to 87948, we'll send you some stuff on love and money. My wife is an expert on relationships. I'm an expert on money. And so we have something called the Love and Money Lab, where we bring together real science that actually works, that will help you to have a better love life and a better financial life, and to blend those two together. Your love life should accelerate your financial life, not take away from it. And also your financial life should accelerate your love life, not take away from it. But if you don't manage those two accurately and carefully, they can crash into each other and cause lots of chaos, which is why you look on the internet and you see so many people saying, I won't go on a date with anybody because these women expect me to spend $150 and I don't have $150 because I want to take her to Cheesecake Factory and she thinks that makes me cheap. So ultimately these issues are solved by science. And my wife is an expert on this science. So if you want to hear from two professors who love each other, who have some ideas that may help you, feel free to text the word love to 87948. All right. So I'm going to get on out of here, guys. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that this discussion was beneficial to you. I'm going to be in Philadelphia for the Get Money Fest with Jay Ortiz. I love the fact that Jay Ortiz was a hip hop artist out there. He works heavily in hip hop and fashion and everything else. I'm happy to see that these young people in Philly are trying to become financially intelligent. So I decided to join them along with Madam President and Tierra KJ Williams and the Pish Posh Girl and a lot of great people out there. And it's going to be May 18th. And actually, I think they're letting everybody in for free. So if you're into art, fashion, music, and finances, then the Get Money Fest might be your thing. If you text the word money to 87948, I'll send you some information to join, or also you can join us tomorrow morning for Money in the Morning. All right, guys. So have a great day. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will check back in with you a little bit later. And I hope this conversation was helpful to you. I'll see you soon. Take care. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
And hello and welcome to the Fly Nubian Queen YouTube channel, everybody. I am Dr. Alicia, and today I have a very special episode for you guys, and I'm so thrilled to share it with you. We're joined by a sex therapist today. Niquan Lewis is her name. Say hello, Niquan.
Hey, y'all.
She's a sex therapist, and together we are going to debunk some of the pervasive myths about male sexuality. Now, before y'all start with me talking about bringing only women on here, female therapists to talk about male issues, I do, by the way, open up my platform for any male therapist who would love to come on and give their perspective. But today we have a female perspective, and I notice she works with a lot of men in her office and in her practice. And so we're going to love to hear the wisdom that she is bringing us today. So it is an honor to have you here so that we can explore some of these topics in an open and honest conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And before we dive in, I just want to extend a warm invitation to everybody watching. I'd like for you guys to text the word love, LOVE, to 87948. And when you do that, you will receive information on nurturing healthy love and healthy relationships. So, and it will come directly onto your phone. So anyway, thank you for being here. And now I think that we should get started. So, Miss Niquan, there is a pervasive myth that we often hear, and it is that all men want is sex, and they always want it. That it's having sex is what goes through a man's mind every 7 seconds. Could you share your insights on the reality behind this stereotype and how it affects men?
Absolutely. So I want to just briefly highlight on what you just said, which was we're 2 women, right? So we are 2 women that are bringing our clinical expertise to the conversation, right? However, lived experience, which of course we cannot have because we're not men, but lived experience is important, but we are bringing our clinical expertise. So as clinicians, we are the expert on the process, right? But men and, the client in general is the expert on themselves. So I just like to, put that out there. Now, common myth, right? I get this so much in my practice when I am working with couples, heterosexual couples, and men in general, with them struggling with, this is all people think that I want from them. So oftentimes it starts with attachment. Research shows that women express their attachment oftentimes through relationship, whereas a lot of men, there's never going to be a one size fit all. We don't overgeneralize in our profession. So it's important to understand that I'm not talking about all men. I'm talking about, some men express their attachment through sex. And so oftentimes, well, think about it. From a society lens, our men, especially our Black men, are programmed to, not express emotion, right? Not do a lot of things that are qualified as feminine, right? So where they get their needs met oftentimes is through sex. And so
Mhm.
that is what they're communicating through attempting to physical touch, attempting to, interact sexually. However, think about intention versus impact. Their intention very well may be to connect, right? To have or engage in some form of intimacy. The impact of that based off of how they are communicating that it may be negatively reinforcing this myth that all they want is sex, but that may not be their intention. They may be trying to connect. They don't have the language though, because again, how we've been socialized.
So sometimes what I'm hearing you say is that sometimes men, just like everybody else, would love to have connection. And when they feel a lack of connection in them, they have been so-called programmed to be driven solely by this sexual desire. And it seems like that's a very narrow way that a lot of men have, I think, socialized to express this connection. And sometimes their interest in intercourse can fluctuate. In reality it really can fluctuate just based on how they feel, if they're under a whole lot of stress. And it just like all of us is driven by all these sort of external things too. But it's such a narrow view, and I'm wondering too if men who don't feel in this stereotypical way and still want to connect other ways, do they feel like in some way they feel inadequate?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very possible. Um, and so to clarify also, men have been socialized to communicate physically. And if we think of like sports and, just like violence and things like that, they've been socialized to communicate that way. However, it doesn't mean that, men don't want to connect. They don't want to be intimate. They don't want to be soft, right? However, again, because of the stereotypes of these things as it relates to men, they don't oftentimes have the language. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, it's the language piece that I assist men that I work with communicating exactly what it is that they want, because their habits, their actions may be communicating one thing, right? But their intentions, what they intend to communicate, could be night and day. It could intend to communicate, I want my person, right? I want to connect with you specifically. But if all I'm bringing to the table is physical touch and sexual physical touch, at that, my partner is hearing something very different.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of the and I want to go on to the next question, but I think it's so interesting. A lot of women respond so heavily to this. They're like, he's all over me, like all he wants is this one thing from me. But can't there be something else this man could want from me? And it's like having that conversation between couples where they can say, I'm more than just this physical thing for you. I can connect with you in a whole different ways. I'm hearing women kind of complain in that way to say, I do want connection with my man, and it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. And it's this miscommunication between the two of them. And it's good that you work with men on this communication, but do you ever include women in this too? Do you ever work with couples where you're like saying, hey, what is it that the both of you need, and how do you talk about those things?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a daily thing for me because it comes down to language. It comes down to communication, right? And again, so many couples don't have the language to build that bridge of compromise where this is what I want and this is what I want, right? Again, what is my intention? And then what am I communicating? And so helping them to see that there is oftentimes a difference. And also helping women to see that. So for men who, work in, depending on what field they're in, if they're in a lot of stressful fields and things like that, when they come to their partner, right, they're wanting softness, they're wanting a soft place to land, right?
Mhm.
However, they may communicate it sexually. But again, it's the intention
Very
piece.
insightful. I really appreciate that. I think that even like another topic that really seems to be taboo too is the issue that a lot of men have, a lot of pressure that men have of getting in the mood but not achieving an erection. I cannot believe I'm talking about this, but I think we need to talk about it. Can you talk about how common this is and why it shouldn't be a source of shame in relationships?
So here's the thing, especially in society, there's belief, straight up nonsense, that if a man does not get an erection, it's absolute dysfunction. That's not what erectile dysfunction is. You have erectile dysfunction, but you also have erectile dissatisfaction. And there is variation with sex in general, right? There's stressors, there's depression, there's diet, there's medication, right? There's so many different things that contributes or impacts erections, right? The quality of the relationship, the quality of the connection. Because all men, you don't, the again, myth, men are just about sex, they don't care about the connection, and that's not true for everyone. And so erectile disappointment simply means the times when someone wants that erection and they feel like they should have it, but they don't get it. And then that brings about the disappointment, which oftentimes comes with shame, blame, guilt, right? Just a lot of judgment, even. And so erectile disappointment, just that's exactly what it means.
Mhm.
Erectile dysfunction is more of reoccurring issues, right? Your relationship is healthy. You're not on any kind of medications that may impact it. Your testosterone levels are good. Everything is good, but you cannot maintain erection on a consistent basis. That's when we're talking about more of the dysfunction. But for, the average person who doesn't have an erection here for various reasons, that does not always equate to dysfunction. I mean, to, erectile dysfunction. There is a difference. And even men don't have the language for that, and they feel bad about themselves. And then if their partner berates them, they feel even worse, right? They feel like they should have this erection. And now that gets into performance-based sex, and that's our next topic. But I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, so much of men's masculinity is tied to their ability to please their partner. And and not having an erection can cause uh, some sort of anxiety that's brought into the bedroom because it's like you're thinking, am I not good enough? Does he not find me attractive enough? Is it technique is not working? You internalize so much of that. Both partners can internalize so much shame, like what's wrong with me? And I think what you're saying is that we need to reduce this sort of stigma and encourage men to, number one, seek medical attention because it could really be a medical issue, and to seek support, and for the partner not to shame them and make them feel bad about it. And, to just know that there could still be genuine love between the two of them and genuine desire, but just because that particular area is not performing well.
In that moment, right? In
Yeah,
that
yeah.
moment. So I'm encouraging everyone to do their best to not internalize that a lack of erection, just as well as a lack of lubrication
Yeah.
for, women, right? To not internalize these to mean that something is wrong with you or something is wrong with your relationship. There's several layers that impact sexual health. And it doesn't have to, we automatically go to dysfunction, right? And doesn't have to be dysfunction. It could be very much situational. And so we want to slow it down. And also we have to expand our definition of sex. Sex is not only penetration, and it doesn't have to stop because someone doesn't gain an erection in that moment, because it doesn't mean it's not coming, right? But again, what's on my mind? If I'm so much into my head and so much focus on pleasing my partner, or really making my partner have an orgasm, then I'm not experiencing the pleasure. And of course, we're talking about blood flow here, right? So if I'm in my head, blood flow is not going to get to the penis where it needs to, and it's going to impact the sexual experience. So expanding our definition of what sex means is essential, because the penis has, the head of the penis has so many nerve endings. However, there's so many erogenous zones on the body for men and women. And if we're only focusing on penetration, you are missing out.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, people who just joined us. We are talking about um, myths about male sexuality. Yes, we're two women talking about it before y'all start. But we're experts in this area, and I have specifically have sex expert Niquan Lewis here, and she is talking to us about what she sees generally in her office and the work that she does with couples and males in particular. And we're debunking myths today. There's so many myths about male sexuality, everybody, and particular about Black male sexuality, because we know it is a stereotype that men have to be hypersexual. Men, that to be a man, you have to always put your manhood up, and you always have to show and prove who and what you are through sexual activity. And that's how you maintain your masculinity. And we're here to say that is a myth. We're here to say it's not just this one narrow way to assert yourself in this way to be a man, that manhood encompasses so many different things. It's not just performance. And if there's a performance issue going on, it could be a very honest medical problem, or you need to see a professional, or maybe a medical doctor, to help you sort of realize, is it stress? Is it lifestyle? Is it health issues? Is it certain medications that you're taking? All of that can impact this, but it doesn't mean that there's a lack of desire and there's a lack of masculinity or your worth. Your worth is not in your private parts.
That's right.
Men and women, please know this.
That's right.
So anyway, I had to put that out there and welcome everybody here to this conversation. And it's very strange for me to talk openly about sexuality. So I love the fact that you're coming on here talking about all this stuff that that normally is unusual to talk about. And by the way, I went to school at Indiana University in Bloomington with the Kinsey report, and I did take.
Yes.
It's so funny. I took human sexuality. The last semester of my senior year, I took the human sexuality course because, like, why wouldn't I? It was just an elective. And the teacher, oh my God, it was so uncomfortable. But we were all spread out in this big lecture hall, and he made us all sit in the first two rows. So we were sitting like shoulder to shoulder. And I was like looking at the videos, like, oh my God. I remember like taking notes. We were all so embarrassed. I think the teacher just cracked up. But anyway, it was a way for us to just like demystify some of these things about something that everybody, it's so normal to everybody. I don't know what goes on with you as I talk about some of this.
It's common. It's common in our profession. I want to normalize that. That is something that I do also in my other leg of my practice. Is I teach clinicians the importance of assessing sexual health, because what you just said, Dr. Alicia, a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. So just as clients coming in my virtual door are uncomfortable at times and need assistance with, gaining that language, I assist clinicians as well. Because again, in our society, it's been stigmatized. It's judgment, it's shame, right? And so I assist people with removing that shame and reauthoring their stories with sex.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so moving on, there's a lot of talk about performance-based sex versus pleasure-based sex. Could you explain the difference and why the latter might be healthier?
So a lot of men specifically engage in performance-based sex. And what that is they are trying to obtain a goal. And the goal is to make their partner orgasm. And so what that means is, again, they are in their head. They're focusing on, the person's pleasure, which there's nothing wrong with focusing on their pleasure, but they're not necessarily even focusing on the pleasure. They're focusing on the orgasm with a misunderstanding that pleasure is about the experience, right? It is about the experience, the man's pleasure and his partner's pleasure, right? It's not just about the pleasure, the orgasm. Orgasm is one type of pleasure, but there are, like I said, when I talked about expanding people's definition of sex, right? You have your fingers, you have your mouth, you have toys, you have other ways to, bring about pleasure. But performance-based sex is focusing on the act and the orgasm or the finished result versus enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
And you're missing out. I'm gonna keep telling you, you're missing out if you are focusing on the orgasm and not the journey itself.
Not the journey itself. It's so interesting because in the media and particularly pornography, that's all about performance. Like there's really no real, I mean, I don't know if y'all seen pornography, but I've seen it. And it really is, it's just performance-based sex is what you see on TV, or in the media or even in pornography. That's all you seem to see. And it's about doing it right and fulfilling this perceived role, I find that's happening between couples. And I think what you're saying is that pleasure-based sex, it shifts the focus to connection. And really that can lead to more satisfying experiences in relationships. And it fosters mutual respect between two people who are just having a lovely experience with each other. And I think that's a profound distinction. What do you say?
100%. It not only does it impacts and increases connection, intimacy, respect, right? Couples that focus or experience more pleasure-based sex report more relationship satisfaction, right? So also it's a decrease. So sex is a stress reliever. However, if I'm having performance-based sex and I'm all in my head, which means that, anxiety is increased, stress is not being relieved in that moment. It's actually being increased. So there's several reasons to have and to focus on pleasure-based sex, and understand that if you lose your erection during, which it happens. And I'm going to say that it might happen to everybody at some point in time. That doesn't mean to stop and focus on the erection. That means to keep going and, again, pick up pleasure. Find ways to pleasure your partner. Find ways that you like to experience pleasure and communicate that. Again, so that's what I'm doing when I work with couples. How do we talk about this? How do we identify what we enjoy, what we desire, and how do we communicate that effectively to a partner? So what brings you pleasure?
Yeah, I like what you're saying because all interactions, listen, we are so stressed out with our day-to-day jobs, dealing with the outside world. I love that you said men like to come home and have a nice, comfortable place to lay their head. And I really like that because in my mind, it's like the interaction between people in a committed relationship should be stress reducing, not stress increasing, and just having stress reducing conversations. And I talked to a lot of couples about that, how the two of you can have a conversation about your day that reduces the stress. And you got a friend and a companion that's going to have your back no matter what. But in the bedroom, it should also be stress reducing. It should be just based on having fun, having fun in a way that is very respectful. And I just like that you extended the stress reducing attitude all the way across, interactions between two people in a committed relationship. And even not in, just even, they don't have to be married. They don't have to be a scenario of marriage, but just any time that you just copulate, I guess I want to say, with another person, it shouldn't be so stressful and scary and frightening and shameful and just all of those things that for a lot of us being introduced to sex has been so negative. And for Black people, we've been so sexualized hypersexualized, women and men,
Yeah.
hypersexualized in this stereotypical way that we bring some of that shame and some of that discomfort into our relationships.
Big time.
Oh,
Absolutely. And so we have to work through those stereotypes and those stories, and again, reauthor our relationships with sex. Because otherwise, not only does it impact you, it impacts if you have children, it impacts how you educate them or don't, right? It continues. We're talking about generational dysfunction here, right? So it just continues to impact us. It prevents us from experiencing, the pleasure that we could. It impacts how we raise our children, how we engage with others. And so because of men specifically have been programmed in this way with sex. One of the ways that I assist them with expanding their vocabulary about it is, one, to identify their intention. Because again, what's the myth? All men want is sex. If they really want connection, right? How do we communicate that? And also understand that communication does need to happen throughout the day. Now, folks is busy. Ain't nobody got time to just be, texting and stuff all day, right?
mhm.
But however, you do want to make an attempt to connect to your partner, and you also want to prioritize non-sexual touch just as well as sexual
Yeah,
touch. You
yeah,
may be surprised. I have a lot of couples that, and I ask them, how many times have you, hugged today? And
yes.
they have not hugged at all.
Mm,
Right. And so then when the man comes and now he wants sex, and now so the woman is like, well, we haven't connected at all, but really he's asking for connection. But because as women, again, our attachment is more relational,
mm-hmm,
we
mm-hmm.
feel like, okay, now you are objectifying me, right? Versus connecting. So it's the miscommunication. Men want connection. A lot of men. I don't like to overgeneralize. A lot of men want connection. A lot of men want to feel desired. They
Yeah.
want to feel loved.
Mhm.
It's the communication piece that oftentimes may be missing.
Yeah, I mean, and as you're talking, I just know that like even men want to be treated like actual people. They don't want to be, and I always say this because my husband and I we do this love and money, and we talk about that with relationships, and I'm like, women, hey, stop. Men are not an ATM machine. They're not somebody that you can just like cha-ching, just take money from and it be so transactional. It's just like, where's the emotion there? Men want to have that connection. They just don't feel like their one job is to bring home money. And you don't want to be so narrow. And I don't understand why so many people get into this where they just feel like that's all men are good for, that's it. And all of the messages received. I'm even thinking about some of the messages my mom used to tell me. All men want from you is one thing. Like that's what she used to tell me when I started dating. She's like, be careful out there because men, they only want one thing. Well, yeah, but now that when you talk to men and get to know them, I don't know, maybe they were telling me what I wanted to hear, but it seemed like they really were interested in me to some extent, not just that one thing. Maybe it was an extension of our connection with each other, but I've spoken to many men who are just like, you know what, I think she thought I was trying to come on to her, but I really was not.
Hmm.
And I've talked to other men to be like, she came on too strong. I felt pressured to want to do something that I didn't want to do. And I think we need to start, as Black people, we need to start seeing each other as a full human being with full set of feelings and reactions and emotions and human beings, not just little puppets and transactional relationships. I think we need to get out of that and start getting into a place where we can just feel a little more transparent, a little more open with each other, and just give each other all of the different ways of intimacy. Sexual intimacy is just one of many different ways to be intimate with another person, and even financial intimacy. All of these things go with a relationship, all of them equally important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the
Oh
nail
my
on the head.
gosh. I really love that you came on here and sharing your insights with us. Before we end, I just want to say hello to everybody joining us. We are talking about myths of, we are two experts who have been doing this work for a long time and trained. So, in terms of our expertise, we're talking about male sexuality and myths. And of course, if you got topics or questions for us, you can let us know. Maybe we'll come back on and answer your questions because I'm certain there's a lot of questions to be asked. But before we go into wrapping up, I'd like for you to just take a second, if you don't mind, um, and share with us one of your personal hobbies or interests you have outside of being a sex therapist. What do you like to do, Miss Nikwan?
Oh, I like to do a lot. I listen. I like to eat.
You like
I,
to eat? Okay.
yes. No, I don't like to cook. I like to eat. I don't like to cook, but I like to eat. I love to travel. I have some trips coming up. Have last year traveled so much, but that's probably one of my biggest things is I love to travel.
I mean, I think that is so, I think as therapists and just as human beings, traveling is so embedded into eating and exploring. And it's just this innate curiosity that we have as lifelong learners. We are all lifelong learners. It's all this curiosity. And I love to eat and travel too. I like to cook too, but eating and traveling is so great because it makes my professional career so much more richer because I
Yeah.
get to see, and of course we can never turn off our therapist hat, everybody. It's like I'm going to the airport tomorrow and I'm sure I'm going to be like analyzing families at the airport, be like, their little sister don't like the big brother. I can see something going on there. Like you can't turn it off, but it's so great to just being worldly and seeing how we're all part of this universe and how universal some of our problems are. Some of the issues that we have is specifically to Black people, of course, and the stereotypes that we've talked about today. But a lot of times when you travel around, you see the universality of problems and people. And it's a very humbling experience, going and traveling and meeting people. And it just breaks down a lot of barriers. So I like that you shared your little personal experience. And so anyway, before we move on, and you can, have some parting thoughts, I just want to thank you for coming on here and talking about and enlightening us about understanding male sexuality. And you've provided us a much needed counter narrative to some of these stereotypes, not only about Black men, but men in general. And I think some of the things that you've said today in terms of stereotypes have really constrained men's experiences and expressions of sexuality. So your expertise is really, really very welcomed and I think invaluable. So I truly appreciate you joining us today. Parting thoughts before we end, and let everybody know also how to get in contact with you.
Absolutely. Everybody can find me on socials at Intimate Connections PLLC. And if you are in Texas and you would like some support, my website, intimateconnectionspllc.com. So parting thoughts for my men. If you focus more on communicating your intention, that oftentimes lands way better and you get the result that you likely are looking for. If your partner knows that my goal is to connect, right? My goal is to be close to you versus, you just grabbing a boob or there's nothing wrong with physical touch. And let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with sex. There's nothing wrong with everybody being sexual beings. That is a natural part of life. That is why I do what I do. I believe that sex is a part of holistic wellness. And so there's nothing wrong with that. But making sure that you're communicating your intentions is important. Making sure that we prioritize non-sexual touch as well as other types of intimacy is important. Ladies, or not just ladies, but just partners in general, understanding that nobody is a robot. There's going to be variations in the bedroom, and that needs to be honored, respected, and be mindful of that. Be mindful of that. Nobody's a robot. There's going to be times when, person person with a vagina may, need extra lubrication, because everybody should be using lubrication. We're probably going to have to talk about women and sexuality next.
Then you talk about women.
Yeah. But there may be times where, men may need some assistance as well with their erection, but expand your viewpoint on sex. And no, sex is what you make of it. Don't limit it. Step outside.
Nice.
And what I'm talking about is creating a sex life that is perfect for you and your partner.
Wonderful. And viewers, everybody, this has been illuminating, don't y'all think? I hope it encourages all of you all to rethink and engage more openly in these conversations about male sexuality, free from misconceptions and myths. And anyway, to our viewers, everybody out there, I just want to thank you for joining us and being part of this important conversation. Remember, I think it's so important for understanding and empathy. I think that's what we're talking about. Understanding, empathy. These are key components of a healthy relationship. And don't forget, you can text the word love, LOVE, to, let me look, 87948. And you will get more insights on fostering healthy relationships and intimacy. And what we didn't get to say is, how can people get a hold of you, Nikwan, if they want to? Where can they find you?
Find me on socials at Intimate Connections PLLC. I also have resources for anyone needing to expand their communication as it relates to, sexual intimacy and healthy relationships.
Oh, excellent. And you guys know where to find me. I'm Dr. Alicia with coachingwithdralicia.com or on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. Those are the best two ways to get a hold of me and follow everything that I'm doing. But so goodbye now for everybody. Thank you for joining us. Keep this conversation going. Hit the like and share with your partner. If your partner's not here watching, or if your potential mate, or if you know somebody who's in a relationship, share this video with them. Hit the like button, please. And remember, openness and understanding. Those are the pathways to healthier relationship. And we want to have like a good Black society. We want to have a society that's healthy relationships. We need to get over this, right? So stay connected to us here on Fly Nubian Queen. And for more enlightening conversations, I'm bringing Nikwan back on here. We're going to talk about other stuff, other taboo topics we're going to talk about. I'm glad that you're here so that we can talk about some of these things that many of us are very uncomfortable talking about. So thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing all right, but I wish we were like on our pillows for real.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sometimes we do pillow talk and we're not actually on our pillows, and so I don't know if I don't know if you call it table talk now or something, but this is us in our offices, and it's funny because we're actually in rooms right next to each other. So
this is office talk.
Yeah, I guess it's office talk, water cooler talk. Maybe that's what we can call it.
Water cooler talk. Yeah. And we have a water cooler. We should just sit our chairs out there in the water cooler and just.
We do have a water
drink
cooler.
Water
we legitimately do, and we drink a ton of water every day. And when we get up in the morning, first thing I do when I get up is start drinking water. But anyway, all right. So I want to welcome everybody and say hello to everyone that's joining us today. In case you don't know, Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins is where I get together with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia, and we talk about issues of the day. Just we try to have intelligent, fun conversations about things that Black people might be interested in. And I want to do a quick sound check. Can you let us know if you can hear us? Give us a quick yes if you can hear us. Okay, yes. Let us know if you can hear us. And also, I want you all to know that I am a finance PhD and a finance professor. My wife is a professor of social work and a licensed therapist. So we have some fun little debates about topics, things that relate to love and money, and just anything that makes us think. And so I want to say hello to Vita and let's see, Hallelujah. Is that right? Big Bird. My name is Corey. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. NA. let's see, Chanel Shakur, Michael McCurry. Good to see everybody. So good to see you. All right, so let's hop into the conversation as you hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that stuff. All right, so Michael Frederick says, think and go rich. That's right, brother. You got to think and you got to grow rich. All right, so here is what I wanted to talk about. So did anybody see, give me a yes or no, did you see that Kamala Harris invited the cast from A Different World to the White House? I'm going to ask my wife, did you see that, babe?
I saw it a few months ago. I think it's a good idea. That was a very good idea.
It wasn't a few months ago, though. It was like a few days ago.
A few days ago?
Yeah,
I saw it on social media. Maybe they were promoting the idea and it actually happened a few days ago, but I remember seeing things online about them coming to the White House a while ago.
Yeah. It was so Kamala brought the cast of A Different World to the White House, and they had a they had a little powwow, I guess, and I think that it was related to the student loan stuff. I think that it was the student loan discussion that kind of led them to bring them in, because, as you know, the Biden administration is talking a lot about student loans and student loan forgiveness. So they thought that bringing in the cast of A Different World would be kind of a cool way to celebrate that. And I'm gonna tell you, I love the cast from A Different World.
Yeah.
And I know you do too. I mean, how many of y'all, give me a yes or no, how many of y'all watched A Different World when you were growing up? Give me a yes. All the Different World fans, give me a yes in the chat if you grew up with that show and really liked it and enjoyed watching it and just had a lot of fun with it. I know I did. Were you inspired by that show, babe?
Didn't miss an episode. Oh my goodness. I was in college. Weren't you in college too when The Different World was on? So that, that was a beautiful thing to see and to witness. Shout out to Bill Cosby for making this happen.
Yeah, and you and I are friends with Daryl Bell. It's not Daryl Bell. Daryl
Bell. That's his name.
You know what? The reason I did not, Daryl Bell, by the way, Daryl Bell played Ron. He played Ron, Dwayne Wayne's best friend. And I'm sorry, Daryl, if you're watching, brother, I apologize for getting your name wrong. The reason I felt like I said his name wrong is because there was a great attorney at Harvard Law School named Derek Bell. Derek Bell, the creator of critical race theory, actually.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I use all of his stuff in my diversity practice class. Oh, yes.
Did I ever tell you I talked to Derek Bell one time when I was teaching at Syracuse?
Really? I would love to speak with him.
Yeah, I have no idea why we were on the phone together, but we talked and I liked him. And that's all. At that time, I didn't know how big critical race theory was. I just knew he was a Harvard professor and I respected that. And another great one there was Charles Ogletree. Charles and I, we both spoke at the National Black Law Student Association conference. We were the two keynotes, and it was in Detroit in 2006, right before Kwame Kilpatrick got popped up and.
This is so crazy. 2006. Yeah, I hung out with Kwame Kilpatrick at the FAMU homecoming because I was living in Tallahassee at the time. Small world, so boys. Isn't it a small world?
Well, it's not a small world. It's a different world.
It's a different world.
It's a different world. Anyway, all right. I know my parents. Every time I think of this, I want to start singing that song. I know my parents love me. Stand behind me, come one day. Ooh, that was a great song, and you hear it. It's almost like that song from the Jeffersons. Remember, nobody knew the words, but it's like "Did you get the kitchen? A big burn on the grill." Take that whole. I think black people. I'm gonna tell you. Here's what I think. I think black people. We're gonna get to the top in a minute. But I feel like
TV better.
We make the best theme songs. Good times anytime you need a payment. Good times anytime you need a friend. I feel like we are just like every song that has been made for TV shows. When we sing it, we blow it out. When they do it, you get I don't know. The best white theme song I've ever heard was "Wouldn't You Like to Get Away? Sometimes
Cheers.
You want to go where everybody knows your name." That was a good one. And
I like Family Ties. Family Ties. That's a black person singing Family Ties.
Oh yeah, what was that? You got to help me know the words now.
What, Family Ties?
Yes. There was something about family, and it made you feel really good. And then the only other song, and then I promise we're going to get back to the topic.
Okay.
And the only other song that I thought was cool was Frasier when he was sounding like a black man. Baby, I hear the music calling for salads and scrambled eggs. Anyway,
And
so
the Golden Girls, you can't forget the Golden
mm,
Girls. Thank
okay,
you
there we
for
go.
being a friend.
That's okay, okay. So they do have a few good songs. All right, I think we're the best ones. But anyway, so here's what. So let's get back to all right. So different world. They visit Kamala Harris in the White House, and it was interesting because I was really curious to see how people felt about this visit because you know how the Democrats do. They tend to show up and get extra black when it's election season, and they sort of disappear when for the other 3.6 years. But the last few months they pop up and they start doing all this black stuff, and I think black people kind of know what's going on. They kind of hip to the game. So I went to Kamala's page, and so Kamala has the video, and it's really, oh sorry, it's real. Oh, let me turn this off because if I play the theme song, they'll give me a strike on YouTube. But anyway, so the interesting thing was a lot of the comments were very negative. A lot of the comments were very. I mean, people were not generally very. They were just generally not very supportive of what happened here. Like not because they don't love the cast of Different World. I think they seem to feel manipulated.
Oh, the timing of it all. I mean, they got to pull out all the stops now. This is some serious stuff.
Yeah, almost like one of those things where it's like, okay, here you go, doing what you do in every election, where you get extra black, and then after the election's over, we don't hear from you again.
Ignore
Yeah,
them.
yeah, and I'm looking for the comments. I actually lost the freaking page. I had it up on my phone, queued up, and I want to read some of the comments. And once I find it, I'll read them. But
on
generally
Instagram, right?
Yeah. So what basically happened was, so Kamala had them all in, and it was pretty beautiful in the sense that you love the cast, you love the show, they deserve to be invited. They all seem to be very very nice people, and people were very supportive of the cast. But I think that they felt that Kamala was sort of using this HBCU thing to pander to the black vote. And Kamala actually went to an HBCU, and people still almost act like she's faking it, right? Because she married Dougie. Dougie's not a black man, and also Kamala, unfortunately, the Democrats have a reputation of really pandering to the black community right before election season. What do you think about that, babe?
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, Different World casts have been unemployed. Well, some of them have been employed, but a lot of them have been unemployed for many years. And now that it's a couple of months here before pretty soon we got the DNC convention, and then we have the election coming up. And I think this whole thing with Trump is scaring people because he has a lot of attention, and so they're pulling out all the stops. And I'm sure it's a strategy meeting. They're sitting around at this table trying to get black people on board. And we have snuffed it out. And I want to hear the comments. Bring the comments up, boys.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is I'm looking at the page, and basically what she did was they just bought the cast in and kind of did their thing. And then a lot of the comments were very much basically accusing them of pandering to the black community and kind of saying, oh, you want to be black now, that kind of thing. And really kind of accusing them of manipulating black people emotionally, which I think that we are really we're really vulnerable to a lot of emotional manipulation. I think that the show Different World, it's interesting that we're so emotionally attached to things that don't even belong to us. A Different World, even the show, the brands, the characters, all those trademarks and copyrights connected to that show belong to, I think, Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that we sort of look at that show and we say, okay, that's a black show, or that's our show, that right there kind of speaks to this odd idea that maybe perhaps we have to really rethink what ownership really means. Like, how do you really claim something that isn't actually yours? It's like if I date you or marry you and I think that your body is my body and I own you, that's not a healthy way to think about it, I guess. And I almost feel like it's the same way when it comes to television. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking to Dara Bell, the first question out of our mouth was what? Where's the Different World reboot? What's going on with the reboot? No, they're going to do a reboot of Good Times where they're living in the projects. They're going to glorify that.
Anytime you need a payment. Sorry. They like those black struggle shows, don't they?
The struggle shows, but they're not going to do something like, and then you can't reboot You can't reboot the Cosby Show because it's so tainted at this point. So I
You
mean,
know what?
Different World was
It
the
ain't tainted. It ain't tainted for me.
well, it's tainted for a lot of people though. A lot of people do
Yeah,
have
it ain't
issues
tainted for me
with Bill
because you know
Cosby.
what?
Mhm.
Maybe Bill Cosby did some stuff. Maybe he didn't. But
But
y'all
his
got to
legacy
remember
is over. His legacy, sorry, boys. I'm not
his
saying I
his
agree with
legacy.
it.
Yes. Oh, go ahead, babe. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm not saying that I agree with it, but his legacy, I mean, he was on the top. He was the best of the best, and now he is on the bottom of the bottom. I think he is, poor thing. He's blind. He's really getting up there in years. Looks like his health is failing him, and I wish him the best, but it does not seem like he is able to save his legacy. And, you know, Different World, maybe visiting the White House, maybe they can get their own reboot. Maybe they can take this as an opportunity to really put some positive images out there of Black people. Maybe we as Black people can start a campaign. Let's do a reboot of A Different World. That would be pretty awesome to see, because we know the effect that it has on your subconscious. I mean, when The Different World was happening, enrollment of Black people at HBCUs and in college in general was the highest it had ever been with that one TV show. It works, boys. Media works. It definitely programs you.
Well, you know, what's interesting is that the comments that I saw relative to Kamala, you know, sort of showing off the cast of A Different World to get votes, there were people in there that went out of their way to say, by the way, we should thank Dr. Cosby and Dr. Alvin Poussaint for creating the show.
And Dr.
And
Comer.
more than one person said that. More than one person stepped into the comments, and most of the comments were very negative toward the use of this imagery. It's like okay, you want to use Cosby's creation to get these votes, but then at the same time, you know, you've kind of taken this guy that maybe he earned some of this. I'm not going to excuse his, you know, his alleged behavior, but you're going to, you know, sort of say we don't want anything to do with him, but we're going to take what he created and use that. And I personally think that's a little bit disingenuous. I think it's I think that you can still enjoy the Cosby Show. In fact, let me ask everybody, give me a yes or no. How many of you still watch the Cosby Show and enjoy watching it? Like if you saw it on TV right now, how many of you would give me a yes if you would watch it and enjoy it? Or how many of you would just turn it off because you're so appalled by his presence on television? Answer me in the chat. Also, as you hit the thumbs up button, I want to remind everybody you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia. And by the way, if you want to know where my wife does her thing, you can actually go to her website, where she sees clients on an individual basis, couples and families. So you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. Okay. So yeah, I see my name is Corey says I still watch it unapologetically. Ryan Turner says yes. Terry Silver, yes. I'm looking for a no. I don't see any no's. There's no no's. So what's interesting is when you talk about Cosby's legacy, I think about that and what that means. I'm going to say something that is going to sound a little strange. I don't think his legacy is ruined at all. I think that his legacy in the Black community, his legacy is very strong. Now, mind you, people might still think that he's a pervert, that he did some stuff he shouldn't have done. But most Black people, if I did a poll and said, do you still admire some of Bill Cosby's achievements? A lot of Black people are going to say, hell yeah. You know, he created A Different World. He created educational shows. He created Fat Albert. He gave all that money to the HBCUs. He gave money to HBCUs when all these celebrities out here just talk a big game and don't ever follow through. They don't. And so I'm not saying that this means Cosby's a good guy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it sounds to me like just like any other person that we consider to be a hero or a legend, just like every slave master who raped slaves for a living, or just like every racist that's been in the White House, maybe his legacy's just mixed. Maybe that's what it may. Again, maybe among white people now, his legacy's gone. But I personally think that's a fragile legacy to begin with. I think that if you are a Black man and you have a good reputation amongst melanin deficient people in America, you're always at risk. You're always in danger. You're one bad Rolling Stone, New York Times article away from having everything you work for destroyed in front of you. So I personally think, based on what I just saw in the chat, to the people that matter to me, y'all matter to me. They don't matter to me. But the people that matter to me, still love Cosby. They love Different World. They see nuance. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I got two things to say. Number one, I think everybody out here needs to sit down with your family right now, starting today, and start watching every single episode of The Cosby Show, starting from episode 1 all the way to the final episode. And then when you're done, go on to The Different World and start watching that together as a family, because it is priceless piece of art. Okay, I just want to say that. Now, yes, we know the contributions that Bill Cosby has made to television and to Black people in general, but we also know that he fell flat on his face. He went to prison. Seemed like any and everybody who was around him in that time started hollering and got on the bandwagon. I'm talking about subconsciously. We saw him fall, and his legacy in general, his legacy in general has been tarnished. He fell from grace. He was voted, I believe at the time, he was voted the #1 TV dad from what was it called? TV Guide voted him. That means he beat out all the other white fathers that we saw on TV. He beat all of them out. He was the #1 TV dad. He cut across everything. And I think with Bill Cosby, I think he knew the impact of his work. He knew the impact of the Cosby Show, and he was a little upset with what happened after the Cosby Show, because remember, the Cosby Show was like a seminal piece where we can say, look, Black people can name their children Theodore Huxtable. What was his middle name? Theodore. I mean, come on. That's so, it's a little elitist in a way, right? To have a doctor and a lawyer and to show all of that. He thought that the rest of the Black TV shows would follow suit, and it did not. You know, what happened after the Cosby Show met its success, the subsequent shows behind it was, you know, back on a little bit of buffoonery again. And I think Cosby became very upset with what Black people were doing. And he felt, you know, he felt that we needed to carry ourselves a certain way. So it was this inner battle. And I think, you know, that made him, he was a little, I think he became a little cynical when you listen to his speech. And then he gave that speech. Do we want to talk about that speech he gave? The famous speech. The pound, what's it called? The pound cake speech? Come on.
Yeah.
The pound cake speech.
Remember the 90s?
That was very speech he gave.
You know, you're talking about when you were talking about the buffoonish shows in the 90s. I think the epitome of that was Homeboys from Outer Space. Remember that? And was Daryl in Homeboys from Outer Space, or am I just making that up in my head?
And that's another thing, because they used the characters from the Cosby Show to put out, because he was very upset because Lisa Bonet did, what movie was that where he played? She was sleeping with the devil. What movie was this?
She had sex with the devil or something crazy like that.
The devil. He was livid because that's his daughter. You know, subconsciously, that's his daughter that just got turned out.
Wow. Now, was Daryl in Homeboys from Outer Space?
I don't know. Somebody will look it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, so you are right. Now, yeah, Daryl was in that. Yeah, with Flex. Isn't that funny that Flex Alexander and Daryl Bell, mind you, you know that Flex and Shanice are friends of ours, right? Flex hit me up on Instagram back before they took down my Instagram. I had a page. I knew it. I would get. I kid you not. In my inbox, I would get messages from. I keep calling him Theodore Huxtable, but that's not his real name. His real name is Malcolm Jamal Warner, who is, by the way, a very cool dude. And me and Malcolm would talk extensively. And I love talking to Malcolm because he's a smart guy, and he would hear me say things about politics that would shock some people because I say what's on my mind. And he would, instead of saying, "Oh, that's stupid" or "That's crazy," he would say, "Can you explain that further? I'd like to understand that." And that's all. I think that's it. I think that's all anybody wants is like, can we just hear each other? You know, like maybe I'm saying something that's gonna shock you a little bit, but I'm not a stupid man. I thought this through. So yeah, but then Flex out of the blue was messaging me because I think he does comedy shows or something, and he was like, "Yeah, you should come to my show when I come to Chicago." I was like, "Cool." And then Daryl Bell, you know, who is a great guy, super smart, and Daryl kind of helped us understand the limitations of what they can and can do. I was shocked, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I think it's public knowledge, but I was really shocked when I found out how much of a grip Warner Brothers has on the show. How they
Yeah.
literally got a trademark or a copyright or something on Whitley's accent. Like
Yeah,
Jasmine Guy
she cannot speak in that accent. Her accent was copyrighted. So
that's
for
insane.
her to use the accent that she came up with, she'd have to get
Mm.
permission and pay somebody if they'll give it to her. She'd have to do
I,
that. So she has to speak in a different voice. What you gonna say?
no.
Oh.
I think that's interesting, right? And that really gets into, I think, the difference in
Oh,
terms of how Black people. Can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
Okay, that gets into the difference in terms of how Black people and non-Black people view ownership and entertainment, right? I think that when it comes to entertainment, we tend to think about trying to get on the stage. We want to be seen. We want to sign the deal and be the entertainer and get all the attention and the
This
fame.
is so hard,
It's so much focus.
boys. The
Right. We do.
desperation.
Well, we do. But here's what's interesting, right? The people that are in other communities who see the talent that our people have, they're not thinking about getting on the stage. They want to own the stage. They want to be behind the stage. They want to put $1 billion into the distribution of the images that are on the stage. They want to get the trademarks, copyrights, patents, whatever related to whatever's being created through entertainment. So when we saw hip hop, we saw, if you use hip hop as an example, we saw hip hop as creativity and a party and fun and everything else. They saw that as a business, and I think that so all these copyrights and everything on these shows that we consider to be Black shows pretty much means that others have monetized Black attention.
Mm-hmm.
And we've provided that willingly. We're not getting money from this. We're not making the revenue from this, but they are, and they're thinking, okay, what's the next big thing we can use to monetize the attention that we can get from the Black community? Oh, that's right. Let's create a movie called Black Panther, and it'll become a thing, and black people will show up wearing their Black Panther costumes, and it'll become a must see TV for every person in the Black community.
And at the end of the movie, I want to jump in. At the end of the movie, a Black woman is going to save the colonizers. Is going to join in and help and save them from everything. After talking about them all throughout the movie, you're going to join with them in their council. You're going to bring them into the fold. So strong heavy. Black people, again, it's another representation of we are serving them. That's what Black Panther was. Mm-hmm.
Guess what? I found the Kamala the comments under the Kamala Harris post.
Okay, what do you say?
So I'm gonna read that in a minute. But before I do that, if y'all could do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. I'm a finance professor. My wife is she's a full professor of social work, not just a professor, a full professor. I got to give this Black woman her props. And also, she is a licensed therapist, and so her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. If you'd like to get some free resources from Dr. Alicia on healthy relationships, things like that, and a free e-copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking, you can just text the word love, pull out your phone, text the word love to 87948. And that will also allow us to remain connected and break away from these YouTube algorithms and all that. And we are on Spotify. If you look up my name on Spotify, you'll find us there. But we want to be able to connect with you directly because, as you know, sometimes these paid platforms just disappear, and we don't want that to happen. So if you pull out your phone and text the word love to 87948, you'll get stuff from us, and it will enhance your life. If it doesn't, then that's okay. You can just walk away, but we'd love to make your life better. All right, so let's I'm going to read the comments. So Kamala Harris brought the cast of Different World to the White House, and she was using that to promote the Biden administration's initiatives on student loans. And so I'm gonna just read the comments straight down. Okay, so there is so the first comment isn't so bad. It's from a retired doctor named Negro Damas.
That's a great name.
He says, I'm a retired doctor. Y'all need to start doing more TikTok because of the influence it has on young minds. They do not get info from CNN and Instagram. My young niece did not know of the Biden's awesome accomplishments because she gets her news from TikTok. So sad. Okay, that's not bad. But then the next person says that they effed up their show by having Kamala in the video. Like it was a great video until Kamala appeared. The next person, B. Irvin, says, "Oh, it must be time to get the black vote." Let's see. Another one says, "Cree Summer hasn't aged today. She hasn't. She
really
has
not. Well, you know, she's on Abbott Elementary. She did a cameo on Abbott Elementary.
Oh, that's awesome. And then the next comment, I Am Dream Jules says, "It's election year, so she's black again." You know, Kama, they didn't call her Chameleonaire because Kamala Chameleonaire, she tends to like sort of change races, like depending on where she's at. So sometimes she's Indian, sometimes she's black, sometimes she's a white woman. That's pretty impressive.
But you know, there's a whole thing. You know, there's a whole thing on TikTok about they've been monitoring her silk press. They said she get her silk presses done, and all she do is get silk press and laugh. And I was like, you know what? If I was ever vice president, that's what I would do. I'd have a fresh silk press every time you saw me. I'd be laughing and giggling because it is nothing. It's just wonderful being the vice president. It's not much on you when you're the vice president.
I don't know about that.
All you do is just hold up whatever the president says. You just like all you do is listen to what the president says, and then you just say it in your own words. You can put the president's speech into AI, Chat GPT, and just create yet another copy of his speech, and that's it. Vice president. At least that's what I see. So what he said. I don't hate it.
Okay, so here's another one. Someone says the VP ain't FBA. FBA stands for Foundational Black American, which is interesting because they rarely put a black person in that high of an office who is just standard African American descendant of slavery.
They have to show allegiance. They have to show allegiance to them.
Yeah, or maybe you have the white spouse. The white spouse is another
allegiance to them.
Yeah, I think the white spouse is another signal that you are a little bit safer. And in addition to that, if one of your parents is from another country, like Ketanji Brown Jackson had the white spouse, also her family's not African American. So really, I think it is important, you know, when we're looking at so-called black faces in high places, I think that it is okay to make a distinction between those who are African American and those who are just black. What do you think?
You know what just occurred to me?
What?
Isn't that what we saw in the Black Panther? Because it really wasn't African Americans that helped the white people out. It was the other black folks that helped them out. It was the people in Wakanda, where the African Americans were kind of just like playing basketball and doing treacherous things. Because remember, Killmonger, is that his name? Killmonger? I can't get
Killmonger.
You know how I feel. Killmonger represented African Americans. And his role, he was so demonized in his role. He wasn't helping out. So that's what we are. We're part of the Killmonger group. And I think that the other group, the Wakanda group, who eventually came in with their accents, because I let you know that they're not here. Those were the people that helped out. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing selected black faces just so that we can have an avenue to cultivate their agenda, to further their own agenda. It ain't just all black people. It's this select group of black people who are furthering their cause, and they're not African Americans.
Well, the way I kind of look at that too, what I kind of see with Killmonger versus the Black Panther kind of thing, and you are 100% right about that, is that there is, I think there's this belief that African Americans are these flawed, damaged people, and that the best thing, you know, in the tradition of racist white paternalism, the best thing they can do for us is to teach us how to be a little more civilized and how to put the past behind us, right? So, and what's interesting is that even this week I saw Nick Cannon, who was humiliated pretty badly, unfortunately, by the people that, you know, kind of run Hollywood. I saw him do an interview and he was kind of saying, you know, we have to get past this whole blame the white man thing. And I felt like, and I don't disagree, right?
Hold on, wait.
Nick Cannon said, but don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad interview. I don't think Nick's a bad guy. I spent about an hour on the phone with Nick's father. I can learn a lot by listening to how your father talks, and I liked his dad, and I liked Nick. But unfortunately, Nick. Well, the hard part is that Nick was the wrong guy to deliver that message because unfortunately Nick is a little bit incarcerated. You know, he's in this space where he's making lots of money playing these roles, on these goofy shows, and
he's a walking just sort of stereotype.
Yeah, but then on top of that, though, it's like he was humiliated. Like they really, when he did that interview with Professor Griff, where they got into this conversation about who the original Jews are, which is apparently, that's just a conversation you're not allowed to have if you're from Hollywood. You're not even allowed to ask the question. Like, remember Kyrie Irving, he just literally retweeted somebody asking the question. They punished Kyrie in the same tradition that they punished Nick. And it's kind of like sort of saying, like, look, you need to remember who's boss. So Nick submitted to that. Nick apologized repeatedly over and over again.
He's got child support payments.
Well, he does.
He's got child support payments. That's real talk right there.
That's so true. I mean, I guess a lot of people would apologize to pay their child support.
He's got to survive. He's got to survive in this world.
Nick's gonna have to work till he's 112 because he got about 8,000.
Never stop. Ain't never gonna stop.
That man got a big family. Anyway, though, but the thing was that I felt like Nick was not the right guy to deliver that particular message about what African Americans need to do, because he's speaking from a position of what appears to be some type of servitude or something where he has to be committed to something. And so anyway, so going back though, let's go back to the whole Killmonger thing. I think with Killmonger, you're right. It does represent sort of this idea that African Americans need to get over it, that we are damaged and that we behave this way because we have refused to get over the fact that we are hurt by what others have done to us and what we do to each other. And so the idea that Killmonger was presented as the bad guy and that the Africans were presented as the good guys, and the so-called good guys end up saving the white guy.
Loyalty. Yeah.
I think there's a real message in that.
Yeah, and if you look at Black Panther 2, if we want to get into the second one, everything was, I mean, okay, I love the rise of the Black woman, but it was the rise of the Black woman to yet again save white people. And that's always been our job, is to be in this servitude role. Come on.
Boy, remember the end of the Harriet Tubman movie?
Oh God. Shoot the man. Well, why wouldn't she shoot him at the end? I was like,
where Harriet. Think about this. In the Harriet Tubman movie, the only person Harriet actually killed, and remember, Harriet was known for carrying a shotgun and taking people out. The only person Harriet killed was a black man.
She shot a black. I mean, she had her gun at the white guy, and then instead of shooting, she made this stupid speech about it ain't right to enslave somebody. Right.
Like, you ain't supposed to enslave people.
That's the dumbest. Who are these writers? This is the dumbest. I could not, as an actress, I'd be done. I'm like, this has got to change. Never make it.
Well, the Harriet Tubman movie was just interesting because you could see where the writers of this film created characters specifically to pursue their agenda, right? There were two characters that we know were fictional, that we know did not exist, and that was
the gay man.
There we go. I forgot about this. So that makes it three.
Hold on.
So there was the gay guy, and remember though. Hold on, but then there was the woman where Harriet Tubman had a scene that was like a woman to woman kind of intimate scene, and then there was the big, angry, dark black man who ends up killing the black woman. And I said, this is so crazy. They literally, in the middle of this film that's supposed to be kind of historically accurate, they create black characters that fit their agendas, and they make the black man the most evil person in the movie, when you've got slave masters sitting on the other side who don't even get punished for what they did.
Now, one slave master died in that whole film. You trying to tell me, come on, not one slave master. And this ain't no hate for LGBT, for the LGBT group. This is their month. And I applaud that, because I think that that's a good thing that they have their month, by the way, boys.
Of course.
I just want to say that. But there is an agenda there. And that was the agenda, is to feminize black men.
All
That's
right.
the
Well,
go ahead.
all right. Well, everybody, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. And if y'all could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify, you look up my name, Boyce Watkins, you can find us there. Also, Dr. Alicia, she sees clients on an individual basis, on a family basis. She sees couples as well. So if you're interested, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. And she has workbooks on things like financial anxiety, stuff like that. I have a new book out called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It's a bestseller on Amazon. So if you'd like to take a look at any of those books, feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. And if you go to drboycebooks.com, you can use the code word book club, all one word, and get 30% off anything in the store. So feel free to go in there and fulfill your educational needs. I believe deeply, and I think my wife agrees, that we should educate ourselves and each other. I don't necessarily know if the system is doing its job. So anyway, so we were talking about Kamala Harris bringing in the cast of A Different World to the White House, and she got really hammered by this. And I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to read more of the comments, baby. You want to hear some more of the comments that people made?
I do.
Yeah, because you know the internet's hilarious, and
and
they pretty much
funny ones.
Yeah, they pretty much went off on her. Okay, so here's some more. Someone said, you're like the special character that comes on 2 times a year on a TV show. Yeah, so
a cameo. You just make a cameo appearance. We don't really, we're not really interested in it. Just a cameo appearance. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess they're saying Kamala only pops up a couple times a year. And then let's see, there's another comment here that says the pandering is sickening. The next comment from Paris Unique Cakes says, girl, you've been hiding. Now you pop out with this. You put too much effort into this when you should have been trying to put out this effort into the United States. Great. This isn't good enough. You still don't have my vote. Another comment is the next one is this supposed to be Black voter outreach? No policy, just entertainment and nostalgia. So it sounds to me like there are people who are sort of they sort of see the Black community, in my view, almost like a community full of children that want to be entertained, right? And so instead of giving them actual policy or giving them something that we can really sink our teeth into, a conversation about reparations, things like that, it's like, no, let's bring the cast of A Different World and connect them, co-brand them with Kamala, and then make everyone feel like this is important. And I'm gonna tell you that in the comments, it's almost like a revolt. And I'm literally reading straight down the comments. Another one says, child, this is comment after comment. It's not like there's good comments in the middle of the bad. Like all of them were pretty bad. The next one says, child, ain't nobody seen her in 4 years. And she pop back out with that HBCU shit. Nah, I'm good. And the next one says, pandering and planning all of what not to do for Black people. The next comment says, oh, let's see. The next comment is, it's so weird how Kamala, remember she's Black only during election years. Let's see. Another one says, let's give Mr. Cosby his flowers for creating this. And I'm gonna tell you, I think that was a pretty heavy comment. Now, Cosby, we talked about him earlier. How did you feel the night? Remember, you know what's funny? This is why I tell you that I don't think. Well, you know, let me just say this. I don't think that Cosby's whole reputation is gone. I think that there are pockets of society. See, what happens is we don't think that we matter. You know, we don't think that our opinion matters. Like, and I think our opinion is the only opinion that matters in certain situations. So I'm gonna tell you, you know, when I asked earlier, I said, how many of you still have, some sort of favorable opinion or respect for Cosby? Most of you said yes. You know, it doesn't mean that you think he's a great guy. You don't think he's perfect, but you know, remember that night when you and I talked to Cosby for just a few minutes. I guess he wanted to reach out and thank us because I don't know what he was thanking me for, because I didn't defend him. I just said he deserved a fair trial. I think that he was kind of railroaded a little bit because they literally broke the law to incarcerate him. So anyway, we were on the phone and our mothers got so excited.
They were
like when he called, like my mama and your mama both asked to be on three-way when
they
he
was
called.
Giggling like little teenagers. I was like,
they really were.
See my mama during that time.
They really were. Your mama was excited. My mama was excited, and they didn't give a damn. Like they just kind of, I think that women of that generation, like the old school women, and shout out to Felicia Rashad as well. I think the old school women, they kind of see the nuance of it. They don't forgive the men when they misbehave, but they do kind of say, we know what the real deal is. Like, we know what was going on in Hollywood. We know about, some of the stuff that they won't talk about in the media, where maybe it's not as clear cut as people want to make it out to be. We know why y'all was all kicking it in the Playboy Mansion, right? Instead of making it like,
You
the
go
black
to the
man was there
Playboy
because
Mansion for a reason.
right. Like the black man's there because he wants to be a predator. The white woman she was on her way to the grocery store and the black man kidnapped her and took her to the Playboy Mansion. No, y'all was all up in there because y'all were doing some dirty stuff, right? And I think it doesn't mean Cosby.
Back then.
Right. It doesn't mean that anybody thinks Cosby is innocent or that he didn't do some things he should be ashamed of. It just means, like, come on now, y'all trying to isolate him as the only person. It's like he was the only person that did dirt in the 60s. And we know that that's not true. Like, remember the driver? I want you to talk about this because I've talked too much. But remember that time? I want you to describe to everybody, babe. That night, you and I were in Los Angeles, and we rode. We had a driver who drove for Hugh Hefner for a bunch of years. His name was David. He was a white guy. And he gave us his opinion of what all the things he saw. He said, I didn't just know Hugh very well. I knew Bill Cosby very well. And he knew the women that were in the documentaries. What did he say? Go ahead, please.
He said, I've seen things and heard of things that would make Bill Cosby look like a saint. He said it's mild in comparison to what was happening in the Playboy Mansion back then. And everybody knew it. Everybody knew what was going on. When you went to the Playboy Mansion, this was going down. Like, everybody knew what it was about, which is exactly what our mom said. Our mom said, why would you be there? Everybody understands what it was. Why were you there? So it's not like it was a mystery. You just kind of fell into this situation. It's like they were capitalizing off of this situation. They saw him kind of fall down, and then everybody got on a bandwagon so that they can get that money. They were looking for that paycheck. Yeah, and this is terrible because there are real cases of assault against women that we do need to acknowledge, because the Me Too movement in a lot of different ways is shed light on actual situations where women were taken advantage of. So I definitely don't want to sound as if women are just out for money. But I think in that scenario, it was kind of overdone. But I will tell you this, during that time when Bill Cosby was on trial, I was teaching a class to white suburban women about race issues. And all of them said, oh, this is nothing but racism. Every single one of them. There wasn't it could be skewed a little bit because these are like different type of white people. But even they were thinking, isn't this amazing? That they would actually bring down Bill Cosby and everybody else is not going down with him. All the other people that were doing it's nothing but racism. And I didn't say anything. I just stood in the middle of the classroom and they all talked about how the Me Too movement was weaponized against Black men.
Well,
so let's
think about it like this. I'm going to say something and I'm going to question my own statement because it just came to mind, and I'm throwing it out there for us to process this because I want to encourage all of us to just be thinkers. I think it's possible that there's a big overlap in terms of who Hugh Hefner was, who Jeffrey Epstein was, who Bill Cosby is, and who Diddy is. Like, I think Diddy, Cosby, Epstein, and Hefner all had a lot in common. I think Diddy, Cosby, Epstein, and Hefner could have all partied together. Maybe they did. It's possible.
Ain't no party like a Diddy party.
Right. So you saw. So yeah. Epstein got it. He paid the price for his behavior. And really, I think that there's even something deeper and more sinister going on, right? Not to feed, and I see, the name Weinstein, maybe that's another name to throw in there as well. And here you're talking about men who were all invited into the most privileged circles.
Hugh Hefner is glorified. I mean, Hugh Hefner is glorified. I mean, they've done specials on him. He got roasted. Like they have treated him like a saint. And it wasn't until he died. It wasn't until Hugh Hefner passed away that now all of a sudden this Me Too movement is now being seen.
Oh, and another name I would throw in there might even be R. Kelly.
I think R. Kelly is something different.
Really? Okay.
I don't think we can really compare R. Kelly to Bill Cosby necessarily, because that's just a whole different thing that's happening. I think, R. Kelly is a tough one to defend.
I'm not defending any of them. I'm not. No. Let's just be clear. I'm not here to defend. Yeah, I'm not here to defend any of them. What I am here to talk about is the compare and contrast. And I want to ask y'all, give me a yes or no. Let's go back. Let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to 1998. And let's write down all these names. This is a thought experiment. I want everybody to go with me on this if you can. So what names we mentioned? Diddy, R. Kelly, Cosby, Hefner, Weinstein, and Epstein. So we got two Steens, a Hef, a Cosby, a Kelly, and a Diddy. So Kelly and Diddy are two entertainers, a rapper and a singer. Cosby and Hef are two OGs. These are guys that have been around for a while. And then you got the two Steens, right? So who are in a whole different community in terms of controlling, Hollywood or access or wealth, right? Could you all imagine a party in 1998 where at least 4 out of 6 of these men were at the same party? Could you imagine a party where Diddy is there, R. Kelly is there, maybe Weinstein or Epstein is there, and it's at Hugh Hefner's house?
Maybe during a time, remember he had the theme song to the Olympics? Wasn't he like, I believe he had a theme song to the Olympics.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Okay, so here we go, right? So can you imagine, like, let's say we rewound the clock 25 years. I can imagine Diddy, R. Kelly, Cosby, Weinstein, and Epstein all partying at the Playboy Mansion. Can y'all imagine this? Is that something that you think would have been possible in 1998? Give me a yes or no. I think it's possible. And here's the thing. This is what's just so interesting to me about this is that I see a lot of overlap in those guys in the sense that they were celebrated at one point. I still remember when the guy from Vlad TV, Vlad, called me to warn me about being friends with Damon Dash, because he said Dame cussed out Harvey Weinstein in public, and you just don't do that because Weinstein. I said, well, who the hell's Harvey Weinstein? I don't know this guy. He said, oh, he's one of the most important people in Hollywood. I remember that conversation, and I was like, oh, that's a big deal. And Dame cussed him out because Dame saw what Weinstein was doing with women, and he didn't care. He just cussed him out in public or whatever. But my point is to say that, it's interesting to me that all these guys were celebrated in the 90s. And then after 2000, their activities became unearthed because the world changed. And again, I'm not here to defend any of these guys, but here's the point I want to make on this too, though. All these men were readily accepted by everybody all the way to the top, from Oprah to the Obamas to, they could go in any circle and be friends. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, those accusations about R. Kelly, I mean, he had been in and out of court. It wasn't like a secret. He had been in and out of court all the way leading up to this, all of a sudden, public display of what R. Kelly has done. Like, if we were really interested in saving Black little girls who were victimized by R. Kelly, then it would have been squashed decades ago when he was driving around Hyde Park picking up little girls at that McDonald's right there. That McDonald's, we've been there a bunch of times, picking up little girls there. If we really cared about those little girls who they did get used, if we really cared, we would have put an end to. He would have been locked up even back then when everybody knew what he was doing. So
do you remember 20 years ago when you and I were just friends and we didn't know we'd be married 20 years later? And I called you about R. Kelly. Remember that? And I made up that little song where I took this musician, and I wish I could find it, but I changed the lyrics. And I called you, because I didn't have that many friends. And so you were one of my few friends.
You made me think, boys. I was like, oh, he's right. But that song
it was all about him picking up little girls on the playground. And she's I think I said she counts with her fingers and toes, and she's this many years old.
Yep,
Right? You know, how
yep.
little kids go, and you go, "How old are you?" And they go, "This many." I wish I could find it. If I could find it, I'd read it. But even back then, like 2003, 2004, I remember being just really shocked and kind of concerned that the Black
Yeah,
community didn't
back
care.
then, you were saying, Alicia, stop listening to that music. And he had the #1 hit at the time. Like, God, I don't want to listen to that music. Dang, this is playing all the time on the radio. He was the guy, the man. Everybody knew.
Yeah,
Everybody in Chicago knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This is why I think some of these documentaries where they isolate one person, like he's the only one, I think that it's a bunch of BS, because all these guys, Diddy, R. Kelly, Cosby, Hefner, Weinstein, and Epstein, had a lot of friends. They could go into any circle, hang out with any celebrity, and a lot of those celebrities partied with those guys all night long. Diddy, again, it goes all the way up to the White House. Every single one of these individuals, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, every one of these individuals has hung out with presidents of the United States. So I think that it's more like one of these things where, yeah, there's some inappropriate stuff happening, but I'm gonna tell you like this: if the conspiracy theorist in me wonders about if I categorize and sort them out, I take Diddy, Hefner, and Epstein, and based on their behavior, it would not surprise me if they did work for the government. Because all three of those individuals did things that didn't make sense to me. Like, why would you just have a big house in a big place? Like Epstein had that island, Diddy had his house where people would just go in there and do God knows what. Hefner had the Playboy Mansion. Why would you have this?
And they
place?
videotape. Right. So that tells you they're videotaping what's happening. Like,
yeah, I had this.
Throwing a party. Okay, we're gonna have a party. We'll have a party for your birthday coming up. Like, can you imagine us inviting people over and ain't no party like a Diddy party? And I'm just videotaping everybody. Everybody gets videotaped. Like, what's the point of these parties?
Yeah, like how many of y'all in the chat? I mean, has anybody ever gone? How many of y'all go to parties to have sex? That's what's I don't get me. I know that stuff's out there, and you got the swinger culture and the sex parties and all. Yeah, that's real, and I'm not judging. But most of y'all don't go to a party expecting to just be sleeping with somebody in one of the bedrooms. Like, you go to a party and maybe you hang out, you have drinks, you talk, and then you go home and you sleep with your boyfriend, girlfriend, or wife. You don't, so the idea of that you're even having a sex party is foreign for most normal people. So the fact that Diddy, Hef, and Epstein created a special space, pay attention now, a special space where they said, we want you to just let go. Just come in and just like Wonka Land, like a Disneyland for grown-ups, where you just come in here and do whatever you want. And then they got cameras set up. Oh, if that ain't a setup, I don't know what is.
Let me tell you something. There's a price for fame. And this system that puts you on top, it will chew you up and it will spit you out. And that's what happened to the black men who forget who and what they are and where they come from. And the fact that this system that doesn't need them anymore, they're done, they're useless at this point, and they're spitting them out. And it's rinse and repeat. It's rinse and repeat, boys. It is. I'm gonna tell you something. I think I figured the formula out. Now, I sent you a text today. Didn't I send you a text message today, boys? Don't be ignoring my text.
I don't remember which.
I sent you a text message, and I'm gonna tell you something. I think Cat Williams is on to something.
Oh, Cat Lord, Williams not Cat Williams again.
Huh?
I said, no, not Cat Williams again.
Cat Williams is on to something when he talked about how they marry these black men off to these oh Lord.
I think he said light-skinned, funny-faced women or something.
Light-skinned, funny-faced women. And who is Eddie Murphy now dating? Some light-skinned, funny-faced woman.
Well, she's not light-skinned. She's Australian.
Well, whatever. That's what they do. And just these weird photos. There's a bunch. I've been sending them to you boys. And I'm like, what the heck
maybe. I don't know about that. But let me just say this. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
What?
I'm making predictions.
Out of all the 6 men, what's your prediction?
That's my prediction. That's the formula. That's to let you know.
I don't get it. What is the prediction? You're not predicting anything.
My prediction is we now know who the next people on the rise are going to be.
Who?
It's going to be one of these black men who are dating these these women who are
But
dating these women.
Eddie Murphy's a legend already. What do you? I don't understand what you're referencing. You're not making sense to me, babe.
I'm saying, listen with your ears, boys. These black men. Okay, so we just laid out the formula. How you're brought into the system. It's a ritual. You're brought into this system. Cat Williams talked about it in January. He started the new year talking about this. It's a ritual where these black men are getting married off to these white women or these high yellow. You know how he mentioned, what did he say, boys? You had it, you just said it.
He
That's
said
how,
light-skinned, funny-faced women that don't talk too much.
yes. And that's what you see. And oh, I gotta go. But anyway, that's what you see, and that's what we're seeing now. I think that that's the new formula now. That's how we can now tell who the next people on the rise are going to be. That's how we can identify them, because their whole life, Eddie Murphy's never dated a white woman his whole life. I mean, you know, you don't really see him that much. And then all of a sudden, there's a rash of these black men who are just dating these that are.
I chalk it up to the fact that California guys don't like black women. That's what I think. I think it's just most of the black women I know in California, they pretty much say that the black men avoid them, right? And that's and I would just say, but just going back, I don't know about what you refer, like you and Cat Williams can talk about that one, but I'll just say this. I think that when you talk about Diddy, R. Kelly, Cosby, Hefner, Weinstein, and Epstein, you're talking about 6 guys who were invited into every circle, and they probably tainted a lot of people who are desperately working to make sure they're not affiliated with their relationship with these people. All these people, like I remember hearing stories about how R. Kelly would have Michael Jordan over to his house to play basketball. We know Diddy had everybody around. Cosby knew everybody. And so I think that this idea of kind of isolating people and saying these are the bad guys, everybody else is good, I don't think that that's accurate. I think that there are a lot of so-called bad guys, if you want to call it that. And I think the nuance is called for. So my summary on that would be that if you're going to talk about a different world, then you got to give some credit to Cosby. You can still hold him accountable for anything that you think he did wrong, but the man had a brilliant career. He did a lot of great things for the world, and I think he's going to have a great legacy in the black community. And I'm sick and tired of white people deciding, what the legacies of black people are going to be. Yeah, Cosby went out into that world and they lifted him up, and the same people that lift you up can tear you down. But I don't think
he did a lot for black people too. So here's my theory. I'm going to lay out my theory here. Okay. I could be stretching it. Just as successful black women have to attach themselves to white men to get their good nigga sticker, for the lack of a better term, so do black men. Black men, it's not good. You're not going to see the rise of a black man and a black woman together in their system. That's what I'm saying. You're not going to get a rise. You're not going to get the rise. And I don't know how Denzel Washington has been able to. I think Denzel Washington, I don't know how he's been able to escape it. He's been pretty squeaky clean so far. But you're not, for the most part, this is my theory, and we can test out this theory. You're not going to see the rise of a black individual unless they're hitched on to somebody who's white. That's my theory.
I can see that, right? I look at it as like you're traveling down the road, and if you have a car, you can go further and you can go faster. But it's still possible to travel without a car. You just have to walk a lot further, right? Like you do have a lot of really prominent black couples. LeBron and his wife, have done quite well. Samuel Jackson has a black wife. There are lots of black couples that get certain opportunities, but I do agree with you at the same time that when you send these signals, like you say, look, hey, my wife is white, or hey, I'm not really black, I'm African black, right? These little subtle differences that does open doors that you would not have if you are a pure African-American couple. Like Ketanji Brown Jackson would not be on the Supreme Court if she were an African-American woman with an African-American husband, because I think white America knows just how much they owe us. And they know that if you are intelligent, conscious, and black, like James Baldwin said, you have to be full of rage. If you are African-American and you are not angry about what they've taken from you, what they've done to you, he says basically something's wrong with you. Right. And so I really think that that's part of the reason why we're pushed out, because I think that there is an expectation we're going to have some anger. And truth is that we're supposed to be. When things like that are done to you, you're supposed to be mad about it. So shout out to the angry Black people. I think that you have it right. Babe, I'll let you get the last word. Any final thoughts?
Well, that was my final thought. My theory that I lay out. We should do some more talks about this and to see, this is my model. And let's just pull the data in as we go along our little life, watching and observing and paying attention and using our critical thinking, our critical thinking brain. Let's see how the data fits this model.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
so we can have a show, Conspiracy Theories with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia. How about that? All right. So I want to say thank you very much, babe, for hanging out with me. You can follow Alicia on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. And her website also is coachingwithdralicia.com. So if you're looking for a good therapist, she can help you. I don't know how much space she has on her calendar. You're pretty busy, I know. But you guys can go check it out. She also has classes and workbooks and things like that. We're all about healing and making yourself healthy and having healthy relationships, and also about Black people loving each other. That's what we believe in. That's what we like to do. And also, if you want to get free resources from Dr. Alicia, you can text the word love to 87948. Text love to 87948. We believe deeply in the strength of the Black family as a key and critical element for Black success and prosperity. So we don't hate anybody. I don't hate white folks. I have nothing against any other group, but I just love myself and love my people, love my family, and love my woman. And I ain't nothing wrong with that. And I ain't never gonna apologize. So they just be waiting for the apology. By the way, so tomorrow morning, don't forget, we also do economic awareness training where we help you to elevate economically. So if you are into economic elevation and you want to join us tomorrow morning, the class is totally free. We've trained millions of people on how to get your economics right. You know, my PhD's in finance. Just pull out your phone, text the word morning to 87948, and I will send you an invitation to join us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We do this every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. So text the word morning to 87948. Or if you live in another country and you can't do the text thing, just go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. And G Love says, shout out to Constance Carter. Yes, that is another person that we love. So thank you all for hanging out with us. We'll be back again soon. Make sure you subscribe and thumbs up and all that stuff so you'll be connected. And we'll let you guys know when we do another one of these talks. So take care. Love you. And thanks demons through life and how you can work through these things. Remember when I was mentioning to you all that undiagnosed, untreated trauma is, in my view, the greatest impediment to Black wealth, because to build economies, you need trust. And traumatized people traumatized people cannot trust very well. Traumatized people also can't even trust themselves. They don't come through for themselves as well as they could otherwise, because when you have all these extra emotions you're carrying around, this extra baggage, it really makes it difficult for you to reach your fullest potential and become the person that you're supposed to be. So this is one of the reasons why I think even with our kids, we want to work very, very hard to help them shape their identities and you know, at an early age, so that they don't have these impediments that keep them from becoming their very best selves, right? So I personally think even things like racism, I know that racism in Kentucky, growing up as a Black kid in Kentucky, really sort of gave me a weird inferiority complex that I was constantly fighting, where I would be shadow boxing. I'd be fighting battles that didn't even exist, because I was so traumatized by this idea that I was going to be treated differently just because I was Black, you know. And I know that even as I got older, there would be situations I would walk into where I didn't feel comfortable, or I was dealing with all these excess emotions that kind of blocked me from being able to really just do my thing and to react to things in the right way, in a measured way. You know, it's like when I was teaching at Syracuse University, I remember dealing with white kids, and it, you know, sometimes conflicts would emerge because maybe I'd get offended by something somebody said or whatever, instead of me just dealing with the issue. Now, I think that we might have, speaking of dealing with the issue, are we back? Do we have audio?
Yes, I have audio. I figured it out.
Okay,
Quickly.
great. All right, very awesome, very awesome. All
Okay.
right, so babe, why don't you tell them who you are, what you do? I assume most of you all know this is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and I'm going to mention this really quickly. My wife is not just a therapist. She is a therapist that trains other therapists, so she's really good at what she does. Also, she is, and I got to give props to the black woman next to me. I hope that's okay. She is one
Well,
of the few, a very small percentage of PhDs. First of all, less than 1% of the population has a PhD, and that percentage is even lower when you talk about people that look like us. But then even beyond that, a small percentage of PhDs become full professors at a university, right? So she's really rare in her field. She's one of the best around. I watch her every day in terms of the fact that she listens to therapy trainings just for fun. I've seen her read books hundreds of pages long on the subconscious mind. So she's really a great partner in terms of being able to understand what's really happening with our mindset and our money. So with me saying all that, babe, why don't you tell them
look
who
at
you are, what
you.
you do, and everything else? Because I have to lay it out there. I want to lay it out there because I don't want people, because there are a lot of people on the internet who sound good but don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I know you put in 20 years of work, 30 years of work into this stuff, right? So to me, I think there's a difference between somebody who has been studying something for 20 or 30 years versus somebody who just got up one morning and decided to start a podcast, and so because it really can cause you, it makes the difference between getting good information and bad information, or scientifically proven information, versus just something that came off somebody's hip. So anyway, I'll let you go ahead and take over from here. Why don't you tell them about what you do and everything else?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Alicia, and I am a social worker. I like to present myself as a social worker first because that's my background in my training, and I work as a professor in the Department of Social Work at a a nice institution. So that's what I do. I do train other adults who want to change their career and become a social worker, many of them, and I also do a lot of supervision for individuals who want to get their license. So I'm a licensed therapist, and so I help sign off on other individuals who have completed their degree and they also want to become a therapist, a licensed therapist as well. So that's some of the things that I do. And I also have my own private practice, and I do a lot of work, particularly with a lot of your students' voice, but also some other people as well. So I work with families, I work with couples, I work with individuals who have these demons attached to them. I love this whole, what is it? You said financial demons
Yeah,
that you're
financial
going to talk about
demons.
today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
yeah. Go ahead,
mhm.
please. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love that whole concept. And, I'm not going to say demon in my practice, but I mean, that's essentially what we're doing. How do you get rid of demons? Like, what is it, The Exorcist? I
Mhm.
should be like the priest and the exorcist to get rid of the demons inside of you. So, I love
Yeah,
that. I love that whole
yeah. Well,
concept.
yeah. Well, let me lay this out. I don't think I've never seen that term financial demons used in any other setting in any textbook or anything. But but that's the goal of the Black Business School and our financial therapy department is we're not here to just simply replicate what's already been studied. We want to go deeper. We want, we're the black wealth, the black wealth surgeons, of America, in the sense that, to solve a serious problem like the racial wealth gap, you really need to do that surgery. You need to do that specialist focal, very, very deep, focused specialization that's going to allow you to figure out from a nuanced fashion, like what's really happening here, right? So the term financial demons is basically something, or you can call them money demons, either one, whatever you want to call them. It basically comes from any fears or anxieties or negative beliefs about money that can really undermine and sabotage your financial thinking. Now, I want you guys to give me a yes or no. Would you say that there are money demons in the Black community? Do you think that there are fears when it comes to money that plague us, anxieties, just stress when it comes to money? Are there negative beliefs that hold us back? And also, the thing about these psychological barriers is that they might come from past experiences. I want you to think about the past experiences that you've had or that you've seen other people have that may affect their decisions when it comes to money. Social pressures like keeping up with the Joneses, following whatever you saw them do on BET, ingrained beliefs. Do you think that there are any money demons that relate to ingrained beliefs, maybe cultural baggage or social norms or generational curses that relate to money that keep us broke, that keep us struggling? And the thing is that here's the thing about a money demon. A money demon, it can show itself in the form of stress, poor financial decisions, or maybe even avoidance of financial responsibility, right? For example, maybe the guy who would love to get married and have children, but he doesn't because he's afraid that he cannot provide for anybody other than himself. And give me a guess if you've seen that before, right? So I want to kind of dig into and what's in just a point of confession. I know my wife loves; she always goes too deep into stuff like that. So I don't want you talking about me, but I'm gonna confess a financial demon I had about marriage. When I was 28, I met a nice lady who was older than me, who was financially secure, and I did not pursue the relationship because I said I'm broke. I only I only make $1,000 a month, and she was making probably $10,000 a month, and it made me feel very awkward. She had her own house and a nice car and all that, and it made me just feel like, gosh, this is not this is not cool. And I don't think that was her at all. That was really me. Now, mind you, I'm glad I didn't marry her or date her or anything because I got to marry you. But still, like, I think little financial demons like that are things that we kind of overlook in terms of sort of seeing how our relationship with money shapes how we make decisions. So let me ask you this, babe. Based on what I said about financial demons, in your practice as a therapist, do you see a lot of money demons pop up in terms of maybe fears or anxieties or negative beliefs about money that may sabotage the thinking of the clients that you see and things like that? Or what in your experience as a therapist? I know you can talk about individual cases, and I don't want you to do that, but how often does that come up?
Well, financial demons is what, and other types of demons, we can take it in terms of your thoughts. That's what gets you into my office.
Mm,
It's the results. It's how it shows itself. And that's when people tend to be like, okay, I need to seek some help because I can't function every day. The stress is so overwhelming that I can't continue on with what's happening in my life. And so when it starts to become overwhelming, it's the consequences of attaching yourself to these financial demons. It's an attachment that you have to them, and it's a thought process. And the more, and it's interesting because with financial demons, the more you feed it, the bigger it gets. And you
mm,
feed it in two ways. The first way you feed your financial demons is by avoiding it, is by just saying, you know, you need to open up your credit card bill and you need to look at what you spent last month, which is what we're going to do after the month of May. It's crazy, right? You know
mm,
that you have all of these issues that you need to deal with and you're avoiding them and you're not addressing them. And so what happens is that short term, you feel a relief, but long term, it ends up getting worse. So that's how the financial demons grow. Number one, by avoiding. And the second way financial demons grow is by fixating yourself on what you don't have and
mm,
comparing yourself to others and say, I don't have this, I can't do this. It's this rumination that you have in your head about what you can and cannot get, what you think that you think. It's what you think that you cannot have. And that's the second way you feed these demons. These demons actually are energy that lives off of you. It attaches itself to you and it
mm,
grows based on your fears.
mm.
It's
Okay.
like the movie It. You ever see the movie? I love the movie It because
Uh-huh.
really it is a perfect dramatization of what happens inside of us. You have to remember, ain't no devil in terms of how I see it in my work and how I see life in general. There is nothing outside of you. There is no devil. There is no demon. The real demon is your thoughts. And if you look
Mm,
at the movie it is a representation of what happens inside of all of us when we start feeding this demon. And
mm,
that clown, it got bigger and better. It fed into their insecurities and it grew until one point in this movie. And it's when they stop and they turn around and they face that clown and they start beating that clown up and they, and they start attacking it.
mhm,
And that's when the clown shrinks down into nothing and just goes away. It's the same horror film. All the horror films that we have is nothing about how it's nothing but how something gets attached to you. But Hollywood makes it seem like these scary people are doing something to you. There's nothing outside of you that's against you, really, other than your mind. And really do mean it in terms of racism, white supremacy, believing that the white man is all that and they got
mhm,
everything and they're the desirable people. That's mind control. That's them feeding us the demons of this other thing is better than we.
Mm. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm gonna lay out a theory here. One of the theories I have is that based on what you're saying and based on, movies like It and stuff like that, or maybe the movie Smile. You and I saw the
Smile,
movie
yeah.
Smile, which Smile's a really creepy movie where basically people you would witness somebody like doing something crazy like cutting their own throat with a big smile on their face and they'd be doing this. And it was a real creepy thing. And what we realized when we saw this movie was we said, "Oh, this movie is really about trauma. It's about how trauma
Yeah.
is contagious and how that causes us to, um, that traumatized people can traumatize other people, and it becomes almost like a virus, right? So it almost seems like with money demons, one aspect of the money demon concept is that you're really also talking about, in my opinion, these preconceived beliefs that people have that really come from these generational curses that are passed down, right? Or perhaps a money demon might be a trauma that you experience because somebody financially traumatized you. Let me give you an example. I talk about this a lot in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. When you loan money to somebody that you trust and it's your cousin and you give them your last few dollars that you had stacked up to pay the rent or the mortgage, and your cousin just ghosts you or disappears and doesn't want to pay you back, and then every conversation becomes awkward after that. They yell at you and cuss you out when you ask for your money back, and then so at the end you lose your money and you lose a loved one. That's very traumatic, and I think that can become a demon, because the way I see that demon manifest is people, they transform. It's like the demon possesses you now, right? You used to be Mr. Loving and trusting, and I want to help everybody. Then you become, nah, this is why I don't loan money to relatives. I don't care. I don't care what's going on with you. I almost feel like that's a transformation, right? Almost like a demon possessing you. I mean, what do you think, babe?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't recommend people loan money to anybody, really. I think that you should, if someone is in a dire situation and they really need money, you probably should just think about what you're comfortable parting ways with. What's an amount? All of us right now should think about, okay, what amount of money can I part ways with where it's not going to make a big difference to me? And that's how you need to think about um, working with people who are close to you in terms of money. Just give them the money. Just say, enjoy yourself. I hope everything is okay, because listen, when you start when you loan somebody money and you see them walk around with a new pair of shoes on, it's always going to create a dynamic. It's going to be like, okay, so this person can't give me back my money, but they can buy a new pair of shoes. It's always, I recommend just try to avoid loaning somebody money anyway. But think about that. Think about how you feel when you have worked hard and you have been successful, and there's other people in your family who's not been successful. I mean, that's also a money demon as well, because there's this guilt that comes that you feel like survivor guilt, and you have made decisions and you have decided to structure your life in a way where you have success, but you don't understand that you worked really hard for it. It's not luck that got you where you are. It's, for many of us, it's hard work. And you start looking around at everybody else and you're successful and other people aren't successful. I mean, that's exactly, those thought process is also can be a financial demon as well, because you think, why me? Why am I so successful and other people aren't? So that, and you see it with a lot of celebrities, and definitely you see it with a lot of, especially when you talk about athletes who grew up in the neighborhood where it was a lot of poverty, and they become successful and they bring all their friends along. Now, it's okay to deal with it that way as long as you have good boundaries there. But it's other people who need to work just as hard as you. And they also need to, also show and prove that they have this, this ability to be able to come up with you. So I think it's beautiful to come up, bring everybody who's available and who's willing to do the work, but you still have to do the work, and there's no substitute for that.
Well, it's funny, and I think this is a good opportunity for you and I to see things from different perspectives. First off, when you said use that word recommend, like I recommend people do this.
I
One
do
thing I
recommend.
always
That's just
one
my
thing I
recommendation.
well no no one thing one thing I always tell everybody is I don't give financial advice. I don't because you have to have a license for that. But then also, I don't want to tell you what to do. I'd rather establish a framework for you to use to make decisions. And I want you to just make sure when it comes to taking risk, because everything's risky. Money's risky, love is risky, trusting people is risky. And where I believe where I find that people tend to be the most upset, at least I am. I know the times I'm most upset is when I was taking a risk I didn't know I was taking a risk with. I was going into something where I didn't know what it was. It's like if you're dating and you're expecting a relationship to lead to marriage, and the other party thinks it's a one night stand, then the problem is not so much whether or not a one night stand is better than a long term relationship. The problem is that there was a misunderstanding. People didn't know what they were getting into, and I bring that up because when I think about loaning money is an important part of a functioning economy. You have to loan money for an economy. If the banks all stop loaning money tomorrow, the entire US economy would crash in a way that was permanently damaging for the next 40, 50 years. Like if all the banks just said, we quit, we scared, we don't want to loan money to nobody because y'all don't be paying nobody back. Um, the economy would not function anymore. You have to have lending. Whenever you look at wealthy families, when we were talking about that segment of India where they own all the hotels, 40% of the hotels in America, they loan each other money. They do. The difference is that they have a code of conduct where they have a process that they go through. If you don't pay somebody back, you don't pay back cousin so and so, oh, they're gonna come get you for that. You're gonna have to deal with that. And so to me, when I think about loaning money, I look at it as obviously you shouldn't loan money to everybody. And then also you have to know what you're getting into, right?
But
Because
that's not
because
a personal loan. What you're talking, I'm referring to personal loans. What you're referring to is like business loans, and I think that's different. You should
I,
make a different.
I do agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. You're right. You're right. But
yeah.
what I will say too, though, is here's where I'm going to definitely agree with you about loaning money. Why you should be skeptical about it. Remember this: most of us are pretty much products of our habits. Our life is a manifestation of the choices you make, the habits you have, and the way that you think. Like if I weigh 400 pounds, you can look at me and pretty much guess what my eating habits probably are, right? Most of the time, right? It doesn't make, I'm not dissing anybody, but that's just true. Or if I'm in really great shape, you can look at me and see, or if I live in a big mansion, you can see that I probably did something financially that got me in that mansion. So when you see a person, and how many of y'all, give me a yes or no, give me a yes in the chat if you can think of a relative who always has financial problems. Give me a yes if you know, if you think, I want you to think about that cousin who always is behind on the rent, who's
And don't go
always
up to them. Don't go up to them and say you got financial demons or money
no, no,
demons.
no, no, no.
Don't
I'm
say
not
that
saying
to
that. No, no, no.
people.
But let me finish this. Let me finish this in that. Let me finish this
Uh-huh.
analogy. And then I'm gonna hand the ball back to you, babe. So think. I want you to give me a yes if you can think of that cousin who's always behind on the rent, who's always an inch away from being evicted, who's always got a trauma story, a scary story, who's all and doesn't even know that their role in the process. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always temporary. It's always just this one time, right? And so really, to your point about not loaning money to people, you got to understand that it was their bad financial habits and choices that got them to where they are right now. So, by definition, to some extent, at least 8 times out of 10, when you make that loan to that cousin who's always struggling financially, that is a bad loan because that person in your mind should have bad credit because you can see that they're making bad choices. So your odds of really getting your money back are probably much lower than you think, but maybe you can't see that because they sound so convincing when they tell you it's just this one time. I'm gonna pay you as soon as I get my check on Tuesday, and it's really Uncle Rerun's fault. I don't have any money. So my point is to say that's where I agree with you. That maybe in that situation, again, it's not me telling you not to do it. It's me saying make sure you know what you're getting into. So if I know I'm loaning money to a deadbeat or who doesn't know that they're a deadbeat, I'm not going to tell them they're a deadbeat. They're already feeling pretty bad. I don't want to make them feel worse. Then I might loan that money knowing that it's a gift. So you say, hey, I need $1,000 by Tuesday. I might say, okay, here's $150. Here's my contribution because I'm not prepared to give you $1,000 or $500 or some number that's really going to set me back. And I think that's where the trauma. And you can give me your thoughts on what I just said, babe. But I think that's where the trauma kicks in is where you loan that person an amount of money you're not comfortable giving away, and you need that money back, and then they don't deliver, and then you're scared. Now you're the one who's financially unstable because you were
Hmm.
climbing up a ladder. You reached down to pull them up, and they pulled you off the ladder. So now you're freaking out because now both of y'all in financial trouble. That's what I've seen happen many times. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's so fascinating that okay, so I'm gonna put my I'm gonna speak from the position of the lender, of the person who has seen the heartache in another individual. They've connected to that and they've decided that they need to be the hero in somebody else's story.
Mm.
They themselves feel like they need to be the hero in someone else's story. So, in that sense, the loaner, the individual with the money, is in a up position. And then they feel like I can help this person out, not really to help that person out, maybe, but also it is a feel good moment for them. So there's a lot of individuals who use their money and their position of power, not necessarily to help that person, because sometimes you cannot help somebody by opening up your checkbook. Sometimes when you look at situations and you see somebody in these dire situations, you cannot help them by opening up your checkbook and just writing a check. If you could write a check and help people out of their misery, it would be so much easier. It depends on how you look at the situation and how you assess the situation, because sometimes other people's sort of issues is a way where you can jump in and be the hero so that you can feel good. So you really do, it's a dynamic process. You really do need to think about what is driving your behavior, that you feel like you need to save everybody. And
Mm.
ultimately, nobody can save anybody. And I hate to put it that way. As a therapist, I want to say that I can help save everybody, but I really don't think I can. I know that what I can do is I can help people. I can give them the map and I can give them the compass of how to have a successful relationship, how to be healthy in their interactions with other people. But it's up to them to use all the evidence-based practice that I know, because that's what I operate on as a therapist. They can use those things. They have to, outside of the sessions, do the work. They have to decide, okay, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to face this demon, because all demons are negative thoughts. I'm going to face my negative thoughts about this situation. I'm going to look at it directly and I'm going to shrink it down, face it directly. Someone wrote in the chat the shadow side. They're spot on, whoever that person was. I can't remember their name, but that's the shadow side of you. And when you avoid and when you fixate on things, that is when that shadow grows. But when you start thinking about not what you don't have, but what you do have, and address that, that is what grows. I don't know, should we call it a financial angel? Maybe money angels. Money angels all around you. Abundance is around you, but you have to see it in your everyday life. And you have to empathize with other people who haven't quite gotten there. So I was saying that, interrupting you, I'm sorry, to say, you don't talk to somebody and say, you got a financial demon. That's not what you do to other people. Because the point of this on Sunday morning is not to save anybody else. The point of this is to use these tools that Boyce talks about every morning, is to use these concepts and incorporate it into your own life. That's the point. You can send people the link and ask them to join, but it's up to them if they're going to click on the link, if they're going to listen to this, if they're going to incorporate all of this into their life.
Well, okay. So, by the way, I want to mention to everybody that we're talking about money demons today, and money demons are pretty much any sorts of fears, anxieties, negative beliefs about money that sabotage your financial well-being. In fact, let's do a quick poll. I want everybody to give me a yes if you can think of at least one money demon that you may have that keeps you from reaching your goal. Give me a yes if you have one fear that's really held you back. Give me a yes if you have maybe some anxieties that hold you back. Give me a yes if you have some negative beliefs about money that were passed down to you that have held you back. Maybe, like for example, you should go to college and give $200,000 away of your money, and so you can get a job that you hate. Again, I'm not saying that this happens to most people, but this is one belief that maybe should be adjusted a little bit. Not because college is bad, because I don't think it's bad, but because maybe that isn't giving us what we want. Also, I want you to give me a yes if you have some sort of psychological barrier that maybe comes from a past experience that involved money, maybe a past trauma, maybe something related to society pressures. Pressures in terms of what you do with your money, how to use your money. In fact, I'm gonna lay this out, babe, and I want you to kind of take this in the direction of one limiting belief about money that plagues a lot of people. Have y'all? I don't know if y'all have ever heard me talk about this, but I brought it up a long time ago. One time on SNL, they did a segment called Black Jeopardy. And my wife is laughing because she knows how it just irked me so bad. And they had Leslie Jones, the comedian, and she was on this show called Black Jeopardy. And in Black Jeopardy, I remember they had two black people and a white guy. I think the white guy was Tom Hanks. And so if you remember, in the show Jeopardy, what they do is they ask you the question and then you give the answer. So the question was something like, they give you the answer and then you state the question. That's what I meant to say. So the answer was, your boss wants to take $50 out of your check every week for your 401k. And I think Tom Hanks was, the white guy's like, you say absolutely or whatever, right? Like you put, you want to invest. And Leslie Jones goes, and she says, you better give me my money so I can buy me some scratch offs. And that was really, it didn't make me laugh, right? I'm sure people thought it was funny because they're like, yeah, that's what black people be doing. We be spending our money on scratch offs. Yeah, well, that's why you ain't got no money in your 401k, right? Because somebody told us that makes sense. But they're kind of positioning us for a lot of long-term financial anxiety. I've seen people who become millionaires off their 401k, but by maxing it out at an early age. You max that thing out at 22, 23 years old. When you hit retirement, you're very wealthy. And remember that you don't just get the benefit when you retire. You're financially secure for a good 20 or 30 years, even before retirement, because you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting over to the side in case you lose your job, in case you really need the money, in case you want to buy a home, in case you want to quit your job, or in case something bad happens. So let me ask you about this, babe. So what is your assessment in terms of what I just said about that Black Jeopardy thing? I feel like that's kind of a money demon that some parts of our culture, what we call the culture, it can be a little bit anti-wealth, because you don't see a lot of wealth coming from the culture. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a really sad display. And I know so many people that would do that, so that's why I would chuckle a little bit when I saw it. I was like, I chuckled initially, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty sad. They just really, that hurt. I mean, to me, it just really hurt because she is representing Black women when she's on SNL. Any Black woman on media represents subconsciously all Black women. So for her to say that, she's representing in the minds of other people and in our minds as well on a subconscious level, she's representing how we feel about ourselves and a part of us that just want instant money. And a scratch off, that's exciting. I love going to the casino, that's exciting, quick money, but that's not long term. And it's sad when you think about it the second time. So your initial reaction is to giggle, but then you think about it more and you're like, dang, that hurts. It really hurts that's where we put our nest egg in, spending our money at the track. I had an uncle who would be at the track all the time, spending his money. I mean, if he had invested, he would have, before he passed away, he could have left his kids some money, some actual money. And it's sad because that is a money demon in our culture. And it's so fascinating how money demons are really just negative thoughts and beliefs about money. and thinking that we don't have enough and thinking that we can't do enough. And money demons is also in how we spend. You see it in how we spend. We want to have social approval and respect of others. And unfortunately, we live in a culture where you are respected if you have, and not only that you, if you have money, but if you spend it in this elaborate sort of way, you get this social approval and respect. And that's the thing where that's the sad part about it. Because I mean, I know millionaires that walk around and they just have on regular t-shirt and jeans. You wouldn't even know they were millionaires, but they walking around and they're just happy with themselves. They don't feel like they need to have to flaunt it or go to the club or go to VIP section and spend a ridiculous amount of money on the weekend. It's just insane what people do. And that's us running a program. We're running a program that's been given to us and reinforced by SNL. Thank you, SNL, for reinforcing that in us. It's terrible.
Well, it does create kind of this weird awkwardness where when you start doing things that are healthy, you start doing things that are smart and savvy and embrace delayed gratification over instant gratification. And it's really unfortunate when you run into somebody who is so possessed by their own money demons that they literally accuse you of not acting black, like you acting white, and like, or like, and that happens a lot. You have people that make healthy choices, and then somebody says, "Oh, you think you white, or you think you better than everybody else," and I know I've gone through that. I don't know if anybody else has ever gone through that, but I've gone through that. If you
It's
uh,
crazy.
yeah. Just even when and I mean, just when I just think about, like, even when I created this platform to, sort of do what we do, I remember I would say this is the home for intelligent Black people, and you remember when Kwame Brown, the NBA player, was like you uppity, you think you better than everybody else, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with being intelligent? Like, would you feel better if I said this is the platform for stupid Black people? You a sellout. What are you talking about? Like, that you don't like the word
Yeah.
intelligent? Like, that was so strange to me. And I really would say that that is a self-esteem issue. If you think that being Black means you're supposed to be ignorant, then just go sign yourself up for slavery. I mean, you would do well in 1702. Massa would love you. You would do quite well on the plantation you are under all these constant threats. There are so many people that want to control you, that want to extract things from you, they want to harm you, they want to incarcerate you. They don't even, they want your son dead. They want to own your entire family. So why would you go into a battlefield like that where threats are everywhere and then want to be ignorant, blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid? That don't even make no sense. I mean, that's completely illogical. And so circling back to just money demons, babe, when I see a money demon, I think of it like like the movie The Exorcist, where the demon possesses you.
Yeah.
And in my view, when you have not healed, when you have experienced horrific amounts of trauma as a child, like lots of us do, and you're carrying all this with you, and you explain to me, by the way, my wife is a certified trauma specialist, right? By the way, she did get a certification. I remember you got the certification because she talks to me a lot, and I try my best to listen, and you were telling me things as you were learning them. I remember you telling me about how trauma, like, literally kills you, how traumatized people have all these physical health issues, mental health issues. And a lot of us, once you understand trauma, you can identify traumatized people when you see them. It's that person who's going to cut you out over a bowl of Cheerios. Maybe it's that person who sprints away every time they run into a healthy relationship, right? Just whatever. Or who takes a molehill and turns it into a mountain, whatever. And it's kind of like one of these things where um these demons do possess us. And if you imagine me being possessed by a demon, I'm not really who God meant for me to be. I'm not, I'm who Satan meant for me to be. I'm who the devil wants me to be. I'm showing up and I'm like, "Ah, yeah," that demon may come from some anxiety or some fear, or perhaps it comes from drugs and alcohol, some bad habits that I have. Maybe it comes from my failures of the past or things that haunt me. Maybe it comes from societal pressure. I was listening to my favorite rapper who told me that I'm supposed to disrespect women, stay high and drunk all the time, beat people up if they make me mad, and make poor decisions, right? But to me, that's what I see. I see the demons possessing us. And to me, to be healthy, you got to do an exorcism. You know, you got to exercise. The more you exercise those demons out of your body, I think the better you are, like the healthier you are, and the better of a human being you are, for not just for others, but also for yourself. What do
Yeah,
you think?
it's so crazy. You're talking about the financial demons. I remember going to college and I had a this white boy in my one of my classes, and he had on like dirty gym. He had on old gym shoes. And where I come from, like, why would you be wearing old shoes? And in my mind, I'm making fun of him because he got on these raggedy shoes. But as I got to talk to him, I'm like, this man is wealthy. And in my mind, it's just like, why would you have all that money and still wear these? Like, you should get a brand new pair of shoes. I was like, you need to go now and get the shoes because I cannot understand. Like, in my mind, it was just like the first thing I would do if I had money or if I came from a family with a whole lot of money is I'd have on some nice shoes. You know, I would not walk around like that. And I think, like, in white boy land, maybe that makes him feel more wholesome and more genuine. I have no idea, but I couldn't understand it for the life of me. And I'm just looking back on that. I'm like, what was wrong with me back then? But that was where I came from, you know? And so I think the best way to get rid of the financial demons is, number one, to recognize that it's there. Most people don't understand how they don't reflect on what they do and how they spend their money and what they feel like it's important. So I really do think that we need to reflect. We need to reflect on instances and become very self-aware, be able to connect the dots. Because listen, Boyce just talked about trauma, and I just want to say something about trauma. Trauma is not because a bad thing happened to you. That's not trauma. Trauma is when something happens to you and you disconnect from how you feel, and you disconnect and you can't connect your current behavior with what's happened to you in the past that's triggering you. You don't understand that. That's when it shows up as trauma. So the best way to get rid of the financial demons is self-awareness and insight. Is being able to understand. You can do the exorcism on yourself. You know, basically you do. I ask questions like, tell me what happened. Why did you react so strongly to this? What was it reminiscent of? And you have these conversations in a place to process all of these unfortunate things that happen to you so that you don't disconnect from it and you walk around as a traumatized person and spending your money impulsively on these things meant to cover up the pain that you feel inside.
Mm. Well, you know, and it is that covering up the pain makes
Mhm.
sense, particularly when you consider that money is a drug. You know, money, receiving money makes you feel good. Not having enough money can create anxiety, just like a drug.
Or the
If you
belief that you don't have enough money.
say it again? Oh yeah,
The
the belief.
belief that you don't have enough money.
There we go. And it's you know, like if you imagine how a crackhead must feel when they can't get no crack. There's a lot of
Oh,
anxiety attached to that, right?
but let me tell you, nobody is better at getting money than somebody who's on drugs. They are really good at manipulation.
Yeah, yeah.
And manipulation. They are, I mean, I have seen just remarkable performances from people who are on drugs, manipulate others to get money out of them. They make it's their entire life. As soon as they wake up in the morning, they're like, how am I going to get my next fix? Who am I going to call? What sad story am I going to tell so this person can give me some money? Ooh, what do I need to do? And they execute. Nobody has more clear vision and execution than a drug addict. It is really remarkable what they do.
Well, you know, well, I'll tell
Mhm.
you, it's you are right. I mean, you know, when I think about the financial crackhead, though, like just the person
Oh, yeah.
that has various financial addictions where money is used as a way to ease certain pain, it makes you think about the study by Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT, where he talked about how money affects the part of your brain that is also affected by cocaine. And so, to me, I'm also thinking about it in terms of just this idea that you know that making certain choices that may not be healthy for me allows me to heal pain that exists because I'm carrying these demons around, and the demons have to be fed. So the demon might be a gambling addiction. The demon might be you know, fear or anxiety. I think other demons, one demon that plagues a big part of the community I've noticed is scarcity. Scarcity, when you talk about scarcity thinking versus abundance thinking, a
Mhm.
person who thinks in terms of scarcity is going to fight you over resources. They're going to compete with you when they could collaborate with you. they're going to hate on you when they should be congratulating you. Because why? Well, because they see whatever you're getting, whatever you have, whatever you're doing as a reflection of why they don't have what they want. Or you getting something means there's less of it for them. You get a good man, she's upset because she can't get the same thing you get, or you're doing well and making money. Well, now your success reflects on my lack of success. So to me, an abundance mindset might come from I would argue that a less traumatized person is more likely to have an abundance mindset and to say, look, there's enough for everybody. I want to see you win. I'm happy for you. And I've seen this just even in terms of just even business. When I would think about collaborating with someone, it's mutually supporting each other. But then I see them and I'm like, wow, this person's really competing with me. Like they feel that they can only be successful if they tear me down or something. And I just think that to me that's a demon. The scarcity mindset. Remember, Europeans brought that scarcity mindset to Africa, and you saw what they did to Africa. The Africans were open and trusting. They said, look, there's plenty of fruit, there's plenty of
There's
gold,
an
there's plenty of
abundance in Africa.
right,
Yeah.
there's plenty of lumber, whatever you want, we got it. And the
And
Europeans
that
are like,
becomes part of your culture. I mean,
mm,
just think about how the Europeans came in and just invaded Africa.
mhm,
It's because think about Europe. It's a cold rock. Nothing grows in Europe. Nothing's colder. I mean, I enjoy Europe for the culture and everything, but I just do not. That place is it's cloudy. It's always cold in my mind. Like I've never been to a beautiful tropical, beautiful vacation
mm,
in Europe where the weather was great. Like the people are great and the culture and everything, but the weather is just not always take a jacket. You could be in,
mm.
January. I mean, July, June, you're going to need a jacket in Europe. So, I mean, that part was just kind of unusual for me. And then I start thinking about the climate and how everything is just so nourishing, the soil, everything. Like you throw a seed somewhere, it's going to grow, and there's an abundance. So that's what's put into our culture as Black people. And I really do think that we need to actively work on getting back to who we are as originals. I'm talking about as indigenous populations. I spend a lot of time sitting with the indigenous mindset, and I love spending my time meditating and focusing on the music of indigenous people. Nothing is more uplifting than listening to music and sounds that heal the body, that not tear us down. So, all day yesterday, sorry, boys, had to listen to my indigenous music that I had to play, but it's positive. It's beautiful. It tells you you can do it. And all of that has an effect. It all has an effect on how you see life. So I love taking out time in this westernized society and sitting with Native American tribes and listening
Mm.
to the indigenous, because I know that's who I am originally. I'm so
Okay,
connected to it that I know it. I'm getting
all
off
right.
into this woo-woo, boys.
So it's okay. It's okay. So if you have a question for Dr. Alicia, put your question inside the Q&A section, and we're gonna go through the question. Make the question short if you can. That way we can get everybody's question. Also, Alicia's website. She sees clients on an individual basis. She sees couples. She also sees families. So if you'd like to go take a look at what she does, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. And if you go to drboycebooks.com, she has workbooks on things like financial anxiety and some other things that relate to relationships in particular. So if you go to drboycebooks.com, we have a whole section on love and money. We call it the Love and Money Lab. And you can go in there and dig in and find stuff that can help you not just have healthier relationships, but maybe deal with what's going on internally when it comes to your finances and all that stuff. Because you gotta fix it, you gotta heal if you want to grow, if you want to evolve and become a better person. So let me just sort of jump back to the guilt. I've heard you talk a lot about guilt and shame. And
Oh,
one thing I've noticed in terms of a money demon that can affect a lot of people is maybe guilt or shame about mistakes that were made, right? Give me a yes in the chat if you have financial mistakes that are just embarrassing. Give me a yes in the chat if you have come back from a terrible credit score, or you're trying to come back and you're just so ashamed of it, you don't even want to look at it. Or maybe you're so far behind on certain bills, you're just like, oh my God, I can't even, I'm not even gonna open it. Or maybe you have shame about maybe you're an investor and you have shame. I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna tell you what. I'll start off by admitting my source of shame and embarrassment. I'm embarrassed by the fact that I didn't just hold on to my Bitcoin back in like 2014, 2015. I think I sold it and then I made all these adjustments and I'm like, boys, all you do, all you do is sit on it. Just you were doing too much. Right? So I make mistakes. We all do, right? And that mistake I made was more so driven by some of the things that I talked to you all about, which was basically I think as the market was moving, I said, okay, well maybe this Bitcoin thing isn't going to work out. But I know people, starting with my wife, who literally bought the Bitcoin in like 2015 or 2016 and didn't even look at it for 6 or 7, 8 years. And then next thing you know, I think you made $100 investment. It turned into almost $1,000. And that is the best way to invest. So that's a source of shame and embarrassment I have.
I feel guilty because I couldn't find my password. I had to reset my password to go back into my account. It had been so long since I've been in there.
Yeah. And I think that there's just a lot of there is a
Yeah.
lot of shame because you maybe for a lot of us you start off struggling financially. You don't always know what to do. You make mistakes for emotional reasons, maybe because you have a short-term temporary problem and you handled it in a way that had some long-term implications. Maybe your student loans leave you feeling a little bit guilty and angry because of whatever. So what about guilt and shame? How did tell me about that in your practice and when you confront that when somebody's just feeling really guilty and bad about mistakes they made in the past that they can't go back and fix, how do you even approach that?
Yeah, I mean, well, guilt and shame are two different things. And from a clinical perspective, guilt is basically when you do something wrong and you feel bad about that particular act and you work to try to correct it. So suppose my scenario I like to give is suppose you are there's an office building and you work at this office and everybody parks, everybody's coming in and out of the parking lot and everyone's parking. So if you drive into this parking lot and you hit somebody's car as you're pulling in, you hit the side door, it's a little bit of a dent. It's what are you going to do about that? So guilt says you feel guilty. You say, you know what? I am going to go into the office. I did this. I'm going to go into the office and maybe talk to the receptionist and ask the receptionist, do you know whose car this is? And if they do, maybe they connect you to the person, the owner of the car, and you go up and you say, hey, I just hit your car. Here's my insurance information. I'm really sorry about that. Boom. That's guilt, right? Where shame is something where shame is where you think, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. Maybe that's the first time you've hit a car or something, or maybe you've hit a bunch of different cars and then you're just like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Why am I getting to these car accidents? And it kind of can carry itself out in a sense where you don't necessarily feel guilty, but you may tell yourself, what do you tell yourself in the midst of that shame? Where some people can say, you know what? I'm not going to feel shame because I don't get into car accidents. This is a one-off. But shame happens when you say, you know what? Maybe I've been hitting people every time I pull into a parking lot. There's something wrong with me. I need to kind of fix it because I need to start learning how to drive better, or I need to figure out how to pull into this parking spot better. Now, the thing where unhealthy shame comes in, where I talk about it in my office, is where you feel shamed and what you do with it. You say, you know what? I think there's something wrong with this person. Why would they park their car that way? I wouldn't have hit them. You're not taking responsibility for what you've done. Okay. You say, you know what? I never would have hit them if they hadn't been parking their car sideways. So what's wrong with these people in the way they're parking? See, I wouldn't have done it. You take no accountability and no responsibility because you can't deal with the shame. It's too powerful for you to deal with that shame because it's tied to so much insecurities. And I see that a lot in my office, particularly with romantic relationships where you've done something to your partner and you know you shouldn't have done, and there's so much shame attached to it. You feel like such a terrible person that you cannot apologize to your loved one by something that you did. Your actions caused someone else to feel this way. You need to feel guilty about it. But some people come from such a place of shame in a clinical sense that they can't take responsibility for what they've done.
Okay, wow, that's giving me a
Yeah.
lot to think about. Okay, so shame
No
is
accountability.
okay, so the shame might appear as me sort of creating a belief that something's wrong with me because I did something for which maybe I should feel some sort of guilt.
It's your
So it's almost like,
behavior. It's not being able to disconnect. You disconnect, I did something wrong with I am wrong. It's the
okay.
behavior attached to that. And what you do if you feel level of shame, and a lot of it is parenting. That's just parenting that instilled in you, there's something wrong with you. Okay, you make a mistake. All children make mistakes. And as parents, we need to correct their behavior and say, I love you dearly. You're a beautiful person who made this mistake. Let's see if we can fix it, right? That's what you want to give your children. But when you say, what's wrong with you? You must be stupid. People calling you names and putting you down. You have so much shame attached to that, that when you're an adult, you can't have relationships with anybody because you're making mistakes and you're not accountable to it. And some people call it narcissism and narcissist. It is a narcissistic trait, but I don't want to put it in those words because that's a clinical word. All of us, we shouldn't be using that on a daily basis, but it's just not being able to say, I behaved in this way and I need to make it right.
Okay, so put that in the context of money and money demons. Like, so
Yeah.
so are you saying that my shame of mistakes I made for which I should feel guilty, that internalizing that shame can create a demon that might affect my choices going forward? That because I'm ashamed that I kept a bad credit score, I see myself as financially irresponsible, which and because maybe I don't want to deal with the shame, maybe I avoid certain things, like, because it almost sounds to me like you're saying the shame isn't required. Maybe guilt is okay, but shame is not required, because shame is almost like that internalization of guilt to say something's wrong with me as opposed to something's wrong with what I did. And when you carry that shame, that becomes the demon that possesses you, that then causes you to engage in avoidant behavior because you don't want to confront the shame, or you don't want to confront the bad feelings that may come with that
Yeah,
shame. Is
because you
that kind of
feel
what you're
so
saying?
ashamed, you fall apart every time you make a mistake. No one expects you to be perfect, but you put that on yourself, this level of perfection that you have on yourself because you're too ashamed. You're too ashamed, and you make a catastrophe just because you had a bad month or something. It's not a catastrophe. Things ebb and flow all the time. That's a universal law, right? The Hermetic principles. You also study Hermetic principles. It's a law. What goes up is going to go down. And you have to be able to figure out how to ride the waves without internalizing it and thinking there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. Now that's I think I get that concept. I know that professionally, kind of dealing with something that feels like shame is what allowed me to really do what I do. Like I remember when I would go on TV and do stuff, you're always so scared in the beginning that you're going to make a mistake or say something stupid or get something wrong. And I remember just kind of saying, just because I get something wrong doesn't mean I'm not qualified.
That's right.
Just because I make a mistake doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody makes mistakes, and nobody's any better than me. Other people make mistakes, and they don't. It's not the end of their careers. They don't walk away in shame and give up. You just keep coming back, right? So that to me is really, I almost feel like what you're saying about guilt and shame is also connected to self-love. Like in my view, this was literally my processing. And again, I'm not a therapist, but I think that we are our own best therapist. So what gave me a lot of confidence, not fake confidence. I don't have to pretend to be confident. I really am confident in what I do and what I know. What gave me confidence was not this false belief that I'm perfect. What gave me confidence was having enough self-love to forgive myself when my imperfections show up. When my flaws pop out and I do something stupid and I say, oh man, dang, I really messed that up. It's all right. We're gonna go right back at it because I love boys. And if you love something, you'll never give up on that thing. You'll
Yeah,
never
and
give up on that person.
and you apologize. You're good at apologizing too, boys. You can say, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. How can we make this right? How can we
Yeah.
make this right? And let's just move on." That is beautiful. Nothing's worse than when somebody does something and they go into this place of shame and they never apologize. They say, "Well, I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't have done that. I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't done that. I wouldn't have done it. It wasn't just on me. If you hadn't done this," where you start to just in your mind, because the shame is so painful for you, because it's, of course, reminiscent of how you were treated when you were younger. and you start seeing that person as a parent, and you start saying, no, I wouldn't, and you feel like you need to defend yourself instead of just saying, yes, it was a mistake, I did it wrong, I feel sorry, let's move on. And
I do agree,
that's the
but
beauty
I'm
of
gonna
it.
tell you one area where I'm going to challenge that a little bit is sometimes I feel like I need to defend myself. There's like if someone comes up to, and I get it, I hear what you're saying. I want to hear your perspective on this, but if somebody comes up and says you stole my purse and I didn't steal your purse, my first reaction is going to be like, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you think I stole your purse, but I didn't do it. Right.
No,
And
well,
I,
what
and
you
so,
say, yeah.
go,
Mhm.
go ahead. I want to hear your perspective on, but that's, I think defending yourself is okay too in some situations. Like, I don't think being defenseless works, right? What do you think?
No, I mean, you ask them the question. You say, okay, wait, you think I stole your purse? The best thing,
Mm,
it's a reaction to be defensive. All of us get defensive, but you have to stop yourself and you have to say, okay, what information do you have that makes you think I stole your purse?
hmm
What information did you gather to make you conclude that I stole your purse, and hear that person out?
mm,
Because that is where a lot of problems can really be dissolved between individuals, is the other person doesn't feel like they've heard the other person out. So you hear the person out and you say, wait, you saw me on video, show me the video. And then you look at the video, you'd be like, what day? I wasn't here on that day. I wasn't
mm,
in the parking lot. Maybe it's a video of the park, you hit my car. Okay, well, oh, there was cameras out there. Show me the camera of me hitting your car, because I really want to hear how you came to this conclusion. Do that instead of defensive, because it's
mm,
these beautiful conversations that are never had between individuals, and they just start fighting each other, and it escalates. It doesn't have to. And in the
Okay.
moment where you really feel defensive, that's a signal to yourself to stop and say, how did you come to that? What information did you gather? Because it could be that that person really did see a video of you stealing their purse. And then you can clearly say, yes, I totally understand why you thought it was me. But guess what? I wasn't even there. That was somebody else that look like me. Let me show you. I totally let's work together and find out. I don't know. You don't have to work together with somebody to find out who stole their purse, but you can definitely give them some empathy.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it's funny. It reminds me when Oprah said a long time ago, where she said everybody just wants to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think that that was a really wise thing for her to say. And so I think that really that all these emotions you mentioned, guilt and shame and everything else, sometimes can make us dismissive of other people, and that doesn't work. And then sort of circling that back around to the financial stuff, um, in terms of money demons, I really think that being able to have a healthy way to process those feelings that we may have, the guilt and the shame of bad financial choices and
Yeah.
just the outcomes, I think that goes a long way in being your best self and being able
Fix
to,
it.
yeah, being able to, right. So either you can fix the past or maybe you can't fix the past. But either way, I think self-love love is powerful. Love goes a long way. And I think, and I would encourage you to love yourself enough to say, God is not through with me yet. I ain't perfect. And y'all have heard me say that. Y'all have heard me say, look, hey, just chalk it up to my imperfections. Because I know I'm good at what I do, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I worked so hard to become good at this. But at the same time, that self love is huge in that, because you never become perfect at anything, and so don't give up on yourself. So don't give up on yourself because you got a bad credit score. Don't give up on yourself because the student loans have buried you. Don't or you feel like they buried you. Don't give up on yourself because you don't know everything you need to know. Keep pouring into yourself. You are the best investment you will ever make. And then one of the other best investments you'll ever make is the people that you love and the people you care about. So you pour into them with knowledge and preparation and information and everything else. And then eventually that turns into resources. It turns into action. And that's how you succeed financially. That's how you get rid of those money demons, and you start operating on a higher frequency. And that's what economic awareness is all about. Economic awareness is partly driven by self-awareness, driven by consciousness, being aware and conscious of all the things that might keep you from getting to where you want to get to. So dealing with the money demons, I think, is something that we all have to do. So, babe, I want you to get the last word. I want to mention everybody. Dr. Alicia Watkins. Her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. So feel free to go to her site if you want to see what she does as a therapist, and she meets with couples, individuals, and families. So that's coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, I have this book called Financial Lovemaking, and she and I actually created this 5-day love challenge. If you guys want to take a look, if
Oh,
you go to
yeah.
boyceandalicia.com, remember that, babe? We
I
did that
do
about
remember
two,
that.
three, about 3, 4 years ago, but it's really good. So feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. You get a free copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking. And also, if you want to get other resources from Dr. Alicia, you can actually text the word love to 87948. So she does a lot of good stuff on relationships and in addition to financial therapy. So babe, why don't you? I'll let you get the last word. Any parting thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I'm really thinking right now, even making a financial mistake doesn't make you a financial mistake, right?
Yep.
And I think that when I say you can correct it, you can just say, "Oh, that was terrible. Let me fix it by adjusting things. Things need to be calibrated in your financial life all the time, and take out time to focus on your finances. It doesn't have to be every day, boys. Boys talks about finances and focuses on it every day, but that's fine for him. Okay. But I really do think that you should schedule whatever's comfortable for you to just fix it and stop ruminating on the past. That rumination, and really get to the point where you can process things and you feel like you processed it out, these terrible things that have happened to you financially, and you can get to a place where you can have compassion for yourself and you can have grace for yourself, but you now know better and now you can do better going forward. Absolutely. So that's what I would tell people.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right, awesome. All right, let's do better, be better. Let's fight
Know
off the
better.
demons. The money demons hit all of us, and so if you want that, just sort of a quick summary of the money demons you may want to investigate, and maybe this is something we can go deeper into. Maybe we can develop
Yeah.
a class around this or something. But I would just to give you some ideas on where you might look for those money demons. One might be scarcity, having a scarcity mindset. They may cause you to have insecurities that they get in the way of progress, like jealousy and or competing with people that you should be collaborating with, guilt over spending or things like that, or maybe debt or mistakes that you made in the past. Guilt and shame are big factors. Also, maybe anxiety over things like debt or income or financial instability. Financial anxiety is very big. If you go to drboycebooks.com, Dr. Alicia has a workbook to help you work through and analyze and become aware of any financial anxiety you may have. She did a whole financial anxiety workbook. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. You can scroll down to the love and money section. Maybe a fear of failure. Anybody got a fear of failure? Just I'm good. I'm scared to go start this business because I'm scared this business is not going to work. Well, I get that. Everybody feels that way, and it's really hard to imagine putting a lot of time and money into something and having not work out. It's tough. It's embarrassing, and you don't get a lot of support. You don't have a lot of people in the family saying go go go. You have a lot of people sitting back saying I can't. I'm just waiting for that Negro to fail. When they fail, I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna tell them why they did. And it's always the people that ain't doing nothing that do the most talking. So having a process to sort of get to that point is, I think, a really big deal. And actually, if you want to look into like a business that you can start that doesn't fail, again, go to drboyceprime.com. Those are a lot of Prime members are in this class right now, and you can say something in the chat. Drboyceprime.com. I think that whole idea of starting your business by selling stock options is really, in my view, the most effective, most superior way to starting a business, or the most superior method I've ever seen, because the business is highly liquid. It doesn't require any work, and you start making income from day one. You just need a capital base. So if you want to go take a look at that, feel free to go to drboyceprime.com, or if you text the word money to 87948, I'll send you a free training called How to Make Money Without Working. It is highly highly efficient. It is literally how I make my money. Errol's, and I see Errol, James, I see you all. So yeah, so feel free to just talk to the other students that are in the class. I like that better than the other method, because the other method was you throw a bunch of money at it, you work your butt off, you wait a year or two, and then maybe you make some money, right? And that's really a hard way to get ahead. So to me, I was like, oh gosh, I should have been doing this when I was 20. So teach this stuff to your kids so they can do it when they're 20 instead of wasting 20 or 30 years like the rest of us did. Other areas where a financial demon or money demon might show up might be maybe you avoid making plans because you're having trouble dealing with instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Instant gratification and the dopamine dopamine release, the good feelings that you get from sleeping and chilling when you could have been working a little bit, or eating the wrong foods when you could have been eating healthy, or just making unhealthy choices when you really want to sort of think about the long term. I think that's a demon too. That instant gratification is another type of demon that really affects so many of us in our lives. It affects all of us. It's a demon that I fight every single day. Do I eat a salad, or do I put my hand in that bag of chips? And my wife will tell you right now, I got a bag of chips next to the bed. So some of these demons don't ever really go away. It's a daily fight. So literally sometimes that inability to focus on the long term, to have that higher level of consciousness required for you to focus on the long term, to me, that's a demon. That's another type of demon. And I know I'm saying too much, and I don't know if my wife has something to say in response to that,
I probably do.
but literally all of us we have our higher selves and we have our ghetto self. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you got the higher level of you where you're just doing everything right. You're getting up in the morning, you're handling your business, you're making plans, you're getting it done. And then you have the other side that's just lazy and don't want to focus and doesn't want to do the right things, doesn't want to even eat right, doesn't want to save, wants to spend, right? So really, this is why I actually started doing this money in the morning financial consciousness thing, because what I realized is, I said, if we wake up every morning and we commit ourselves to being our best selves, that gives us a much higher probability of success. Because remember, being the best does not always mean that you're always at your best. Like I'm pretty good at this financial thing. Some people would say that I'm one of the best, but I ain't always at my best, and neither are you. None of us are. So my goal is every morning to convince you to find the best version of you and make sure that person shows up for work every day. And that's how you're going to win. That's how you're going to succeed. That's how you're going to overcome all the demons, the cultural demons, the psychological demons, the emotional demons. That's how you're going to fight the battle. And the battle never ends, but you will win because you're built for this. Babe, did you have something else you want to say before? Because I know I said a lot. Did you have something you wanted to
Well,
end
we'll
this with?
save it for next time.
Okay, all right.
I
Well, I'm
don't
gonna
want to
say
get into a loop with you.
all right. Well, I hope that you will give Dr. Alicia a digital round of applause, digital thank you. I know she's my wife, but I'm sorry. I'd like to give my wife props
Thinking
for how hard
about.
she works. She elevates me because she's super disciplined. She's in that. She got me to join the 5 a.m. club, and we get up every morning and go work out. And I'm inspired by her work ethic. And I always tell people, some of these sisters out here just kicking butt, taking names. And so you're a wonderful ally in this game of life. So thank you very much for joining me, babe. I really appreciate your time. And also, her website, one more time, is coachingwithdralicia.com. And so if you want to see what she does as a therapist, feel free to go there. And or if you want to get some free material from her, you can actually just text the word love to the number 87948, and there's some stuff that we can send you out that way as well. All right, so have a good day, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, every single day, 7 days a week. We do money awareness, financial consciousness training each morning. So make sure you're on the text list. To get on the text list, text the word morning to the number 879.